What is up, people? You are listening to New Generation Hero Talk. I am your host, EJ Stewart, and we have a big show lined up for you guys today. We'll be talking plenty about our events at New York Comic Con. Kendall, Shamari, myself, we all went to the New York City Comic Con Marvel television panel. A lot of big reveals from that. We got to see a lot of footage. We'll talk a lot about that. We'll also talk plenty about some of the news we've gotten from Marvel this week, some scoops we got from Marvel this week. One being some details about Secret Wars that we can look forward to. We're also going to talk plenty about some future plans beyond Secret Wars that may come off a little controversial to the Marvel fans and the faithful at large. So plenty to get to on this show. We'll also talk about the Peacemaker finale. That show wrapped up last week. So tons to get to. Let's get right to it, starting with my co-host, starting with Shamari Stewart. Sham, 1 week after Comic-Con, how you feeling?
Feeling good, man. Feeling tired. A lot of walking. Had to rest my legs. As I'm sure we all did after that very long weekend. But it was obviously a very good time, and I don't know if any of our listeners were there. Hopefully, some of y'all were there. But it was a wonderful time. As you pointed out, we got to see some cool panels. The Marvel panel was awesome and definitely delivered. It was a wonderful time, and again, we'll be recapping what we saw on the show.
Absolutely. Kendall, of course, joins us as well. Kendall, you're 1 week removed from Comic-Con. How you feeling?
Feeling great. Yeah, great to be out there with you guys. I mean, there was a lot of really cool stuff we saw. I mean, some good stuff we saw even outside of Marvel. Simu Liu, got to hear from him, and he has a new show coming out on Peacock called Copenhagen Test. That was cool. Got to check out Glenn Powell's Running Man movie. At least a panel on that movie. We also saw the Smashing Machine from The Rock. That was cool as well. So a lot of interesting stuff we did last week. So that was fun. But like you said, Marvel is definitely the highlight and the thing that we'll spend our most time talking about. But yeah, it was a fun experience as it is every year.
Yeah, we also got to see the Star Trek panel as well from Paramount. We got to see a lot of new stuff from them, so I was really excited to see. Overall, fun time. Last week or the last podcast, I know we complained a lot about the process that goes with trying to reserve panels over at New York Comic Con. And look, it was not easy to get into some of these panels. I'm being quite frank, and I do think there could be definitely some improvements when it comes to that process. But the actual presentations, the actual panels that we got to see, and what they put together, all was really interesting, good stuff. So shout out to New York Comic Con, shout out to Marvel, shout out to like you mentioned, Kendall, the Peacock with the Simu Liu show, Copenhagen Test. So shout out to them, shout out to Star Trek, Paramount. Is all overall good stuff. Good comic panels too. Got to see some stuff regarding new X-Men comics as well. So overall, fun time as it always is at New York Comic Con. This was year 13 for me and Sham. I think Kendall was probably nearing the 10-year mark as well. So we'll be there next year. We're there every year, and I'm sure we'll have fun stuff to talk about then. But let's get to what we got to this year when it came to the Marvel television panel that happened over at New York Comic Con. And this was a big one. This was a big one because this was they're going to be their opportunity to kind of talk about what the future of Marvel television is. And when you think about some of the edict we've gotten from Bob Iger that Marvel Television is going to be scaling its programs back quite a bit. This year, this 2026, proves to be a monster year because it's going to be a year where they probably will have the most projects they'll have in a year for a long time, if ever. So a lot coming down the pipe. I'm just going to run through what we saw, and then we'll break it down afterwards. So it started with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So if you've seen that animated show, we've talked about it on this podcast. We all think a phenomenal show. I think Shamari maybe has not finished it, but me and Kendall have watched it, and it's a great show. Season 2 is coming up in fall of 2026. We got to see some footage on that. The head of Marvel Television, Brad Winderbaum, teased that if you're a fan of Venom, this will be a season that will be quite exciting for you. So Venom fans maybe want to take a look at Symbiote. Apparently will have a big role in season 2. We saw the trailer. Trailer looked phenomenal. So we're looking forward to that. X-Men 97 season 2. This was a big part of this panel. There were a lot of big things, but interesting notes that came together with this. Number one, season 2 returns next summer of 2026. So that's when you'll get to see season 2 of X-Men 92. Also, this is the beginning of a creative shift, right? So we know that Bo DeMeo is now officially out. He is no longer with Disney, and I mean, he will be the first one to tell you he's no longer with Disney, so that's not a surprise there. So who is in? So what's interesting is this is something that I don't think was officially announced um, until the actual Marvel Comic Con. So we already know that the head of What If is also going to be a part of this in terms of the creative when it comes to Marvel, Ashley Bradley. But beyond that, the old school is back. So you'll have both Eric and Julia Lewald, they're a married couple. They were producers on the original show, along with the original series director Larry Houston, who was not at Comic Con. Eric and Julia were there at Comic Con. Larry was not. But they will be co-executive producers on season 2 of X-Men, the animated series. So we'll talk plenty about that. We got to see season 2 trailer for X-Men 97 rather. A ton of new mutants that did not appear in season 1 showed up in this trailer. So we'll talk about that. Daredevil, Born Again season 2. This was another big reveal that happened at Marvel Comic Con. Of course, Charlie Cox comes out, does his whole thing, but the big reveal, of course, is the official return of Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones. So Kristen Ritter comes out. That is now maybe the worst kept secret. It was the worst kept secret probably in all of Marvel television, maybe all of superhero movie television at this point, that Kristen Ritter was coming back as Jessica Jones. That is now official. She is featured quite a bit in this first trailer for season 2, which we did also get to see exclusively at New York Comic Con. So we'll talk about that footage in a little bit. But Jessica Jones is back in the MCU, and Kristen Ritter is reprising that role. Wonder Man, a show that is coming out later. I believe later this year. Am I mistaken? Sorry, 26th January 26th when you'll see Comic Con. Wonder Man. We got to see both Yahya Abdul-Mateen and Ben Kingsley, who will be both back in this film. Yahya Abdul-Mateen is featured quite heavily in the first trailer that you all got to see. The trailer that you guys that has been posted on by Marvel and posted to the internet is the trailer that we got to see as well at New York Comic Con. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then the surprise, probably the biggest surprise of all, was at the end of the panel. Vision Quest was officially announced by Marvel Studios. We got to see Paul Bettany come out. He will be playing Vision, of course, in what is being described as the conclusion of a trilogy from WandaVision, Agatha All Along, and now Vision Quest. We got to see a first trailer of that show as well. So really exciting things there. So a lot happened. I guess I'll just open the floor first and just ask some questions. Sham, do you feel like Marvel Television A delivered, and B, what was the standout thing to you that you want to highlight first regarding what we saw over last Sunday?
So on whether they delivered or not, I would say they absolutely delivered. I feel like we basically expected a panel like this once we saw that this was like on the docket, once we saw that this was something that they were going to do at Marvel, that there was going to be a Marvel television and animation panel.
Yeah,
it was immediately just like, well, okay, so we're going to get some stuff this year because we know that, Marvel television has some heat coming. And we know Marvel animation has been doing a lot of good stuff as well. So, yeah, they definitely delivered. Vision Quest, I was not expecting. That was a surprise. I thought it was a possibility. But I would have been very satisfied. Even as the panel was ending, I was like, maybe we won't get Vision Quest, and that's okay. We still got a lot of heat. We got X-Men 97, all the announcements regarding that. Their Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man looks good. Daredevil looks great. So, yeah. So I was very pleased. But for me, The standout was actually Vision Quest with X Men
Okay.
'97 as a close as kind of a close second, I suppose, because X Men '97 was so great. And what they showed us looked good, which that was not again not I guess not to give attention to any leakers or whatever, but that wasn't officially posted, right? What we saw in X Men '97.
No, no.
Okay,
The only thing for the people scoring at home, that maybe some of you went to Comic Con and seen some stuff. Maybe some of you have seen leaked stuff from Comic Con. The only thing Marvel has officially posted is the Wonder Man trailer. Wonder Man trailer
okay,
that we seen also at New York Comic Con was posted simultaneously on the internet. I know the Daredevil trailer has gotten a lot of rounds from someone in the crowd shooting. Someone that clearly didn't get thrown out, didn't get caught. That has been posted. Kristen Ritter herself reposted that video, the show that she was in it. Which I thought one of the funniest tweets from the weekend was that Kristen Ritter is method acting by doing things Jessica Jones would do. So I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, the only thing officially that was released is Wonder Man. So the Vision Quest stuff is the only thing we saw. And Kendall, let's pause on Vision Quest for a second. This show, first of all, it was kind of we've talked a lot about Vision Quest on the show as an idea of being like one of those examples of why are we doing this? Why are we care? It feels like something that they let go so long ago that now to go back to it, like, is anyone really interested in his story and what he is doing? And look, it is definitely, as they said, a continuation from WandaVision, from Agatha all along. But what I will say is it was kind of refreshing to actually see someone talk and make the case for Vision Quest, because Vision Quest has not been like an official thing that's been announced by Marvel for so long that it was just a thing that we saw through the trades, saw through the scoopers, that's something that was coming, but not something that Marvel actually got to talk about. So they didn't get to really get their word out on what the story was going to be.
Yeah.
What's the hook? Like what? Like why someone should be interested or excited in it. And having watched the footage and just seeing like Paul, how excited he is for the project, how excited Brad is for the project, I'm still very skeptical of it. But it was like, okay, I get why you're doing this, what you're doing. That like there's sometimes this idea that everything you're doing over Marvel is kind of haphazard. It's not saying that it isn't. I'm not trying to defend them in that regard. But when you go, this Vision Quest story has been rumored for at least 2 years, maybe 3. Like so, so when you go this much time without announcing a project, with everyone else being able to talk about a project that you would not being able yourself to even announce, it was kind of refreshing just to see what they see from this. And I'm excited about it. One of the things to note from this, the big reveal from this trailer that we got to see was that James Spader's Ultron is going to be in this project. It's going to be a human version of Ultron, that James Spader, who of course was a version of Ultron in Avengers: Age of Ultron. He's going to be in it. I also thought it was cool that James Darcy, who played Jarvis in Agent Carter, he's going to be playing Jarvis the AI in this project. And one of the other neat things about this project that I saw that just, if you're a Tony Stark fan, Iron Man fan, you'll enjoy, is all the artificial intelligence kind of humanoid or human personalities that are played in the show are all people, are all like actual Tony Stark AI that you've ever either seen in all the movies or in comic books. So there's someone playing Jarvis, there's someone playing Friday, there's someone playing Edith, there's someone playing Dummy. So like I think that is a neat thing to just kind of keep that Tony Stark legacy alive. One of the few things that we talked about with Marvel where they're keeping things alive that maybe they shouldn't, that was one I actually thought was pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, yeah, I think Vision Quest was the highlight of this presentation from Marvel. I mean, I think, do I still believe that this is a show that is probably a little bit unnecessary? That's probably a little bit stuck in 2022, 2021, for sure, right? I mean, we're talking, this is a WandaVision spinoff. I mean, WandaVision was so long ago. WandaVision was good, but like, I don't think it's aged maybe as well as they would have thought it or hoped at this point. And so from that perspective, we definitely don't need Vision Quest, but at the same time, it is still a a Marvel television show that is deeply connected to the mainline Avenger movies, right? I mean, at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, like Vision is a guy that if you've seen all of the Avengers movies, you're gonna know who Vision is, right?
True.
And so that still resonates. I feel like in the cultural zeitgeist more than even some of these spinoffs that we've gotten or these shows that we've gotten rather
Mm-hmm.
with new characters that haven't maybe popped off as well. In part because they're not in any of the movies, right? Why do I got to go see Moon Knight, or why do I have to watch Moon Knight? Why do I have to watch She-Hulk?
Yeah,
Of course, it's got Hulk
in
in
some
it.
ways, Vision is like closer to Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki
WandaVision
and
and Loki.
WandaVision than some of those other new shows. It's a fair point.
And so, I think that's, I mean, Paul Bettany in many ways, of course, obviously Charlie Cox also has a big, he also has him and Kristen Ritter also have, big, followings when it comes to this space
Definitely.
because of their time with Netflix. But Bettany coming out was like, man, that's an Avenger, right? And he's not like he's not one of the main Avengers that we was in Avengers 1, but still, I mean, this is a guy that's been in almost all these movies.
Yeah, it could have
Either
been
in the voice or
it could have been because of the surprise element, but the pop that
that
Bettany
was that
got in
as
the
well.
crowd was probably the biggest one of the panel, which is quite large.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlie Cox and Christian Ritter were both there.
Yeah, and so I mean, again, I thought just the fact that they pulled it out and that they gave us something for Vision Quest was a huge win for Marvel, and what they showed us, I thought was really good. I do hope that it's not, and I don't think it will be, but I do hope that it's not like 99, 95% human actors and no CG like Ultron. There is no robot Ultron. He's just James Spader. Kind of a weird sort of Legion kind of thing with Shadow King. Like, I think that's what it'll be most of the time.
Yeah,
But I would imagine at least for a finale, something along those lines that they would break out the CG Ultron. It's definitely a smart way to keep costs down. To not have to spend too much in CG, but that part I'm a little concerned about, but again, excellent trailer, and then obviously the tease of speed at the end. There's definitely, I mean, this show and Agatha definitely feels a bit like these shows will be good. Obviously, I mean, Agatha's already done, and I think the show will be good. But it definitely does still feel like a bit of a roundabout way to introduce Wiccan and Speed and set up a Young Avengers situation.
I don't even hate the setup. I don't like. I think the setup feels roundabout because it's been too long. The reality is, and this is one of the things where this is what happens when you stumble into something and then try to recreate something amidst other, creative issues. I think they stumbled into WandaVision being kind of a cultural phenomenon of the pandemic, and then feeling like, all right, we got to capitalize this. How do we do this? Well, we introduced Swig and Speed, and we're going to introduce them anyway because I think they always were going to be a part of some kind of Young Avengers. But I think Agatha and Agatha being such a popular character from WandaVision, they thought that would be a good way to bring her in. And then they're like, all right, well, now we could bring one of the twins in there, both. They decided to bring one Wiccan. And then they're like, all right, how do we bring Speed? All right, well, we have this other tentacle out here, a White Vision that's happening. Let's do that. And I think because those shows took so long to come out, I think that's where that roundabout way comes in. If Agatha All Along comes out a year or a year and a half after WandaVision, I know some of this stuff may have been impossible, right? Because there was a pandemic still happening and there were limitations and Marvel got set back, so they had to...
There was a strike.
Yeah, it was a strike. Yeah, the big thing was a strike, for sure. So some of this may not have been their fault even, but just the result of it could have been it feeling roundabout because of some of those other issues.
Right. I mean, I also feel like the whole Marvel having like 8 trillion things on their calendar, definitely played a role. Obviously something we've complained about on the show quite a bit. I've complained about particularly quite a bit. But yeah, it's just, I would generally agree with that. But I don't mind either, because it looks like, I think like having speed on this show feels like it makes sense. A lot of times when it comes to the whole like Wicked and Speed thing, and particularly how he was introduced, because it's like, oh, you're this whole like, oh, Vision, you're a dad and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I've
a
never
boy.
looked at, yeah, I've never looked at Vision like that when I think about Wicked and Speed. So it's like it's very interesting. So I am very much looking forward to seeing that as well.
Yeah, and I feel like Vision the dad is actually usually when I read Marvel comics some of the funnier things with Vision at this point. He actually has an actual daughter also in the comics that is a also
Vivian.
yes, that is also an android, and that comes with funny things too. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that element and seeing him play to that, and also seeing just this journey of him trying to connect to old Vision. Because I think Vision dying was a definitely a necessary, great part of Avengers Infinity War. But he's not like he's a character we were hoping to die. Like he's a character we liked. So I think seeing that character be brought back into the Marvel universe and whatever role he may play moving forward, I think that that's a positive to have Paul Bettany back. And not as like the crazy white Vision we saw at the end of obviously WandaVision, but as maybe some newer version of the guy we once knew. And maybe this is the kind of the beginnings of Marvel going back to some of the old stuff we've seen with characters that have been kind of
Getting
passed
recipes
away.
back.
Getting recipes back, exactly. So Vision definitely becomes that. Again, this is a trailer. It was a good trailer. It was essentially kind of seeing what Vision's life is like now and through his AI world. Um, while he then tried to step out of that to connect to the memories that he was given by the Vision from the Hex. It's a really good trailer, and when it drops, I think it'll be received really well. But that's something that we probably won't see for a little while in terms of that trailer, since that show is obviously furthest out. But I was surprised we got trailers. To be honest, I was like, wow, they're clearly they're working pretty effectively and efficiently at this point to have that trailer. Kendall, what was something that stood out to you from this panel beyond Vision Quest?
Um, I mean, look, Daredevil season 2, man. I mean, uh, I think Daredevil season 1 was good. I think a lot of people understand it could have been better, but obviously they did a little bit of patchwork. Had to, add some stuff, change some stuff, but still obviously couldn't change everything.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing, obviously heading towards season 2 now, they kind of obviously understand the assignment better from the jump than they did for season 1, and so the upside is unlimited. And then you bring in
Yeah.
obviously other characters. One obviously being Jessica Jones. Um, I mean that trailer they played it twice, both times got huge reactions. It's a really well done trailer. Shout out to Childish Gambino song over it. They ultimately, I think they did a lot of really good things there. But the one thing I was surprised about was we had, we thought we were gonna get Jessica Jones, but I think a lot of us thought we were gonna get Luke Cage as well. And Mike Coulter was at Comic Con
She was.
at the same time as Kristen Ritter. So it just seemed like, oh well, this is a slam dunk, right? They couldn't get Bernthal. Sony dropped out. That was quite the shame that Sony dropped out. But that would make sense for Mike Coulter to show up. But there was no Luke Cage announcement. So is that a sign that maybe he's just not in it, or is that a sign that they really want to hold on to stuff like Luke Cage showing up, and that they felt like Jessica Jones was enough to get the people jazzed up, but they still want to hold on to stuff for the show?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, like Luke Cage now. I mean, obviously he's not in the trailer either, so I don't know if he ever was going to be in the plans for him to make an appearance with this panel, given the trailer they cut didn't include him. I guess maybe they could have edited him out of it or whatever. But yeah, he was there. It was notable. I mean, I told you guys this. Charlie was getting interviewed by by Brandon Davis. It's been a phenomenal job. Shout out to Brandon Davis from Phase Zero. Um, and Charlie, in a roundabout way, talking about just like the experience of shooting in New York City, told some roundabout story that involved him with Kristen Ritter, but also Mike Coulter and Finn Jones in like a local restaurant in costume, and people kind of just looking at them like, guys, like, oh my god, and then like not realizing that all four of the Defenders were all in one. This is from when way back when they were shooting Defenders. This had probably at this point, 2016, 2017 or whatever, maybe even earlier than that. So I thought it was a weird when you're doing a Marvel panel and this is a Disney product. I thought it was strange to bring up. I'm gonna bring up actors who quote unquote
Netflix actors
aren't employed by Disney to tell a story at a Disney panel. And I know it's somewhat related. It's New York City, and Kristen Ritter obviously just returned, but it just seems strange to name drop those two guys in that.
Yeah, like sentence. Obviously Winterbaum wasn't up there, but like if you're Brad Winterbaum, you're like, like if they're not in it, right? If they're just like we have no plans to bring those two back, it'd be a little weird, right? It'd be like we're talking about Finn Jones, we're talking about Mike Coulter, like
it feels like you're going way up.
They're not in it.
It feels like you're going way up the talking points to bring up some random story about having dinner in New York City with these four people and being spotted by fans, unless it's done on purpose, which I think it was. I think that you'll see. I'm actually inclined to think you'll see both of these guys either teased or even in this show, given that story, given how much that they really played up the fact that Jessica being a member of the Defenders and her return, and kind of like what that means. And to me, it's just common sense, right? Like I think if you're writing the show, it doesn't really make sense for Matt to say, "Oh, I'm gonna get Jessica," and not go for the other fish. I'd argue some of the other bigger fish. I'm not trying to power match up these four individuals, but I mean,
Luke Cage is literally big.
Not have Luke Cage and the Immortal Iron Fist if you're trying to fight, an all-out war against Wilson and Fisk seems silly if you know who they are and they're still around. So, but you remember Jessica Jones, who again is strong. I'm not trying to power match here this thing, but it just seems like that wouldn't make much sense. I understand why you maybe can't recruit Spider-Man for other reasons. We get that stuff, but not Luke Cage and not Iron Fist. So it makes me feel like that's gonna come. One thing to note in this trailer, so Dex is back, so you get more Bullseye. Karen Page is back, and her and Matt have resumed, a romance angle in this one. So that's something to look out for. Also, Wilson Fisk, very much unhinged mayor of New York City. There's stuff with him. We know he locked up all those metahumans, obviously. There's a bizarre boxing match happening. I assume maybe that's some sadistic thing he does on his off time with the prisoners that he is locked up in New York City. And it is very much still an all-out war between Daredevil, Charlie Cox, and of course, Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk. Cox mentioned that that scene in the diner, which I agree when he said that was one of the better scenes from the whole season. I think that was also shot by the old crew. That scene in the diner where kind of that deal was in place that, hey, listen, if you don't bother me, I don't bother you. That deal is over. So it is all out. Kill Matt Murdock in terms of how Wilson Fisk is operating. And obviously, there is no holding back from Matt when it comes to implicating whether it's Vanessa or anybody in Fisk's criminal escapade. So the trailer looked good. I think that we're going to be in for a big season, and I'm excited to see what happens. But yeah, the Defenders. I think that if I had to guess, I'm gonna say the whole team comes back, and I'm gonna say the whole team comes back in this season. It may not be the whole season. It may be just the last episode, but just like Punisher made a full return. Obviously, he was in the earlier episode, but made a full return as Punisher in the last episode. I think you'll see something similar with Daredevil. Well, where do you stand, Sham, on the Will Fist, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage come back? Do you think they make it to the season or not?
I think Luke Cage definitely makes it to the season.
Okay.
Iron Fist, I'm not sure.
He's always the one where it's like,
yeah. I feel like they may either tease him possibly, or he may show up. Or he may show up in like a Luke Cage show or something else.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like they may show him later, possibly.
I wonder if they
But
want to take him off the board. That's my question. Like, obviously,
I take him out of the Defenders. You mean?
like, the elephant in the room is a lot of people don't like the Finn Jones Iron Fist, right? And so that's in part why I think there's a lot of trepidation, and then also why there's a lot of skepticism that would they even bring him back. And so it makes you wonder, from an immersion standpoint, like, if I'm supposed to believe that this is the same universe and everything is always the exact same universe, then yeah, Finn Jones Iron Fist should be in it, right? You shouldn't necessarily recast him. You shouldn't just not show up. But I wonder if they either write in something to explain that he's not in it, or if he shows up and then they somehow kill him off or write him off somehow, and they introduce another Iron Fist.
Yeah, I mean that's a possibility, but yeah, no,
I'd be surprised to see this as a full-time role.
Yeah, I mean I would agree with that as well. I would say I'm leaning towards yes. All four of them will likely be in this, in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's a cameo, even if it's at the very end of the season or some kind of post-credit scene, I do think we will see all four.
I think the thing about Iron Fist I think is important to note is how much has changed since so much of that what's the word just backlash towards the Finn Jones portrayal from the Netflix show. Number one, they've made a decision that going away from the original actors is a bad idea. And that was stressed by fans who just went crazy and just did not allow it, basically. Fan outrage. And then what they saw part of this Daredevil show that didn't have some of those actors and said, we can't do this. So there was that change where they thought they could do whatever they wanted in terms of not really acknowledging the previous Netflix world, and now realizing, no, they have to take on that. I don't even want to call it baggage, because the Netflix world, while it's not perfect, has, great stories and great background and great lineage. There's no reason, in my opinion, to just not accept it. So there's that. I also think, and this is a reality, because Disney's playing in this game, and it seems like every studio, every pop culture or just media element is having to play this game of this anti-woke thing regarding all things in media. And with that comes the previous time there was just very much this big push that there should not be a Danny Rand that is a white man that is doing this role of Iron Fist. That was a lot.
I was championing that effort.
Yeah, you championed that, and you were not alone. There were a lot of people who had that, and I disagreed with that, and I'm not some anti-woke guy. Don't dare put me in that garbage. I disagreed with that aspect. But the reality is that we've seen media companies all across the world, or all countries especially, shift their thoughts on diversity and things like that to placate a current administration and just a current vibe that is now the vibe and now the wave. So if there was trepidation about a Danny Rand being a white man doing, being the master of martial arts and being this character that had so much Asian influence, if there was trepidation about that back then, I feel like you could get away with a lot more now, simply because it's a different time than it was 6-7 years ago. It's just reality. Does that change their thinking on this? I have no idea. They could still feel like it's dumb to have him there, and they should recast a new person, a new character as the Iron Fist. There are plenty of other people who have been the Iron Fist. They could do that. Or they could decide that, listen, if we want to get Danny Rand off and make this thing get over, this is the best time to do that. I tend to think that they'll do the latter, but I think those are two important notes about this whole thing.
Shang-Chi is also around now, so they could kind of...
Yeah, I mean, Shang-Chi was coming at that time.
Well.
Yeah, Shang-Chi is now an established character and a fairly successful character, even though Marvel seems to still have no plans what to do next. But yes.
Yeah, Shang-Chi would be perfect for this kind of a show. But yeah, I think that they've got a weird thing going on. I went to Shamar after we went to that Simu Liu, Peacock panel, Copenhagen test. I told him afterwards, they've got to get on the ball with this, because this guy's definitely has star power. But,
definitely.
And they had a Shang-Chi panel there as well, like anniversary panel or a reunion panel. But
that I don't think was actually championed by Marvel. I feel like that was At least
No,
Marvel
yeah, I think that was
Studios.
I think that was kind of an independent, thing.
Yeah,
But
it's like all the actors
yeah,
agreed to just show up and talk about the movie.
right, kind of
Yeah,
like the X-Men. They had an X-Men Days of Future Past one as well. But
yeah,
the to me, like that character, I understand there's a framing of like we don't want to put one of our Avengers on TV, right? We don't want to put one of our Avengers next to, Foggy, whatever. But at the same time, I think like Shang-Chi's character makes plenty of sense to be in that Daredevil thing. You're not doing anything with him anyway. Like, it makes perfect sense to put him in, and that I don't think they understand that would only increase his profile, right? The same
yeah.
way they're putting Punisher, they put him in,
Spider Man.
Daredevil Born Again. Now they're putting him in Spider Man. Like, I don't think Shang-Chi being in Daredevil Born Again season 2 would be like, oh, we can't do a Shang-Chi movie anymore because he's in Daredevil. It's a TV character. It's like, and from he makes perfect sense to be a defender
No.
in many
I mean,
ways.
Nick Fury was in Agents of Shield. Like,
Right.
yeah, didn't hurt Nick Fury's character at all. In fact, when they did his own show, that hurt him more than
Right.
and
Now, to be fair, that's Samuel
anything.
Jackson, right? They may feel like, all right, well, Samuel Jackson, it may not matter. Nick Fury, with Shang-Chi, they may be saying, like, we got to try and give him legitimacy, right? Because he hasn't been in any Avengers movies yet, which has been a mistake, in terms of not doing anything with him since that movie. But they may feel like his second appearance should be in Doomsday, and then his third appearance should be in Secret Wars, and build him up as this Avenger. And that's fine. Again, I would have said, well, then throw him in Falcon, Brave New World, throw him in, all this other stuff. But still, again, I don't think throwing him in Daredevil is not throwing him in Miss Marvel, if that makes sense, or throwing him in Moon Knight.
I mean, Daredevil. I know Daredevil didn't get the viewership I think that they probably would have wanted in Disney Plus, but Daredevil is a I mean, it is clear Daredevil is a massive priority with Disney, and Brad has been not shy about talking about shows that have a future. This is not the final season of Daredevil, by the way, which is something that Charlie Cox had to clear up. I don't think it's something we got to on this show, but like Cox had made a reference in one interview that this final season of Daredevil that he did was amazing, and people were like, final season, what? And I guess he took it as like I don't say a language barrier because he speaks English obviously, but a British thing where in his eye final didn't mean the last. I don't know what he was talking about, but this is not the last season. There's going to be more seasons of Daredevil. He also, Brad, kind of mentioned that there could be more there that. This was not at the panel, but he did in subsequent interviews. He did a whole live Q&A podcast, so to speak, with Brandon Davies as well for Fade Zero. And he kind of alluded to the fact that Jessica Jones, this is not the end of Jessica Jones. And that another show, he didn't say that, but you know how Brad speaks. He kind of like leaves for something. He seemed to be alluding that another show with Jessica Jones, maybe just a continuation of Jessica Jones, is also coming. So they are now all in on the Netflix world, which is why I think again, Finn Jones makes sense, because if you're going to go all in, yes, that was the world that didn't work the most, but now you have control. So all the things that Netflix screwed up, in many ways, you can fix. And I think Finn Jones, he has spoken about the regret he has for that show not taking off the way he wanted it to. I think he's an actor that would have something to prove. And I think that he would know that this is probably going to be his last shot. Because I don't know, what has Finn Jones done since Iron Fist? I haven't seen him in anything big. So, I think he would know this would probably be his real last shot to really make something happen. So, I would maybe hold and feel like maybe there's a shot that they could make this work. But, I mean, Shang-Chi, I don't disagree. Like, if he was in Daredevil, that wouldn't be some way that wouldn't be
demotion, minor league.
Yeah, it wouldn't be him being buried. I think that it's the opposite. It's another
throwing him in the minors.
It's another reminder that this is a expansive universe and that anybody can show up. I think it's something that James Gunn has done quite well and has been smart about with his DC world. Putting Peacemaker and Superman was great. I think that that's something that would be a benefit to Marvel.
Do you think the moment that, because I think the most interesting moment from that for me, from that whole Charlie Cox, Brandon Davis talk, was when he asked him about being in the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man trailer. He was like, "So wait, they showed that?" He got kind of squirrely, almost like, and then Davis elaborated. He's like, "Yeah, the animated show, the Friendly Neighborhood." He's like, "Oh yeah." Like, it's almost like, do you think that was him realizing, like, not confirming, but insinuating that he's going to be in the Spider-Man movie?
Oh, I didn't take it like
but
that.
like,
I
yeah,
didn't take it like that either.
that's how I interpreted that. Like, because he, obviously they showed the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man trailer, Charlie Cox is the voice, and then Brandon Davis says, like, so you're in the Spider-Man trailer we just showed. What was that like? And he was like, wait, they showed the trailer? And like, he did, and then he had to say, yeah, like the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. He's like, oh yeah, like, to me, again, maybe it's, maybe he knew exactly what he was talking about. He was just surprised, but I almost took that like he didn't, like, he was shocked that, like, what, like, we're already showing trailers for Spider-Man. I didn't know about it. Like, so yeah, I don't know.
I didn't take it as that. I took it as because I think Tristan also wasn't able to see the trailer that was played that showed her in the trailer, which is why they played it again.
Yep.
So I took it as just they're not able to see the trailers that are getting played in the back because they literally don't show it to anybody until they show it to.
Right. Well, yeah, he did. It's just like, yeah, he didn't know that the trailer was played, but when he said the Spider-Man trailer, like, I don't think Charlie Cox knew. Are you talking Brand New Day, or are you talking?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Are you talking?
I didn't take it. It could be. No, you could be right. I totally know what you're saying. You could be right. I didn't interpret it that way. I interpreted it as just like everyone else got coming up. Oh, I didn't get to see that trailer. They played it. That was cool. Like, I took it as that, but you could be right.
He played it off well. I'll give him credit. Initially, there was like a nervous panic, and then obviously people laughed
because the official word is he's not supposed to be in this new Spider-Man movie. This is a movie that's supposed to be Punisher and Hulk. We still don't know who the main antagonist is, which is being described as kind of like a what's the word? It's kind of like it's being pushed as like a surprise. Is that like whoever's going to be in this role is going to be someone that's going to be brand new that we're not going to expect. So I don't know really what's going to happen.
I want to say there were some comments this week. It's been a lot that I haven't caught everything, but I want to say there were some comments this week about some insinuations that there's going to be some tie-in between Born Again.
No, yeah, that's
Brand New Day.
Yeah, Born Again season 2 and Brand New Day are tied together. That was one of the other big things that came out this past week.
And so, I mean, I'll be very surprised if he's not in it at all. Maybe not shocked. I think if you'd have told me last week, I think I would have said, like, before Comic-Con, I think I would have said, I don't know if I'll be shocked if he's not in it. But, like, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if he is. Now, I'd be a little surprised if he's not in it at all.
Really?
Based off, again, that, and then just, again, what the way he reacted at Comic-Con, that was the vibe I got.
Yeah. I mean, if you're right that he was confused about the wrong Spider-Man being played, then yeah, I agree. I didn't see it as that, so that would be the main difference. Is if you're right about that, then yes. If not, then that would be that would be different. What I will say, I do think when it comes to Daredevil, one of the things that stood out as well was long hair Foggy made an appearance in the trailer.
Yes.
I think it's a flashback, but there is this conversation about, like, is Foggy actually dead? Like, that was some of the stuff that we talked about watching Daredevil every week, and it's something that, now I think we're kind of stuck on as well coming into this new season with Karen Page now back. It's going to be a big role in this upcoming season. Do you feel like she'll be back here in terms of Foggy back full time with the show?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Foggy. Honestly, I think that was, I mean, maybe it was smart, but that was like the most overlooked aspect of this, because I think last season that was like the number one storyline, especially leading into the end of it and even after it. Like, the Defenders thing was like, that was a talking point, but that's like, I don't know, it's like cameo stuff, right? Like, nobody we care about the Defenders coming back, and that's awesome. But like nobody's expecting, even Luke Cage is in it, nobody's expecting him to be like one of the main characters, or even Jessica Jones. But like, they killed old Foggy in episode 1, right? Like that was the biggest thing that happened in the show, and now they're telling us he's coming back. We don't know in what manner, and they glossed over that entirely, which again was smart. They fed us some red meat, gave us Jessica Jones, teased all this Defender stuff, but the thing that a lot of people cared about most was what's the deal with Foggy, and they didn't answer any of those questions, which is smart. But this trailer didn't really do much to answer a lot of our questions, right? Like we know he'll be back in what capacity, right?
Right.
Flashbacks, what happened to him, right? If he is back in real time, like why is he still like? Again, there's a lot of questions that are still up in the air, which I think was well played by Marvel.
Yeah, Shamar, do you feel like you think Foggy will be back this season? They did not. They showed him in the trailer, long hair, circa 2000, season 1, season 2 Daredevil Netflix show. What do you make of Foggy's presence in the trailer, and whether or not he'll make a full return?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a surprise. It seems to me, and again, I don't believe we're getting any kind of, resurrection thing, anything like that. So yeah, it seems like it'll
the Lazarus Pit.
Yeah, the Lazarus Pit, or
The Hand.
or was it Elektra resurrected as well?
Yeah,
was she? Am I making that up, or was she also resurrected?
Yeah, the Hand.
Yeah, the Hand, like resurrecting. I think we're done with the resurrection story arc. So I think I think he's going to come up in like flashbacks and things like that. That's appears to be what's going to happen, and it'll probably be very sad. Honestly, it'll be very and I know I was like the Foggy hater, I guess, while he was in the show. I still don't think he should. Well, I'll put it this way: I wouldn't want him to be like playing the same role that he did by the end of Daredevil, but or the original, like the Netflix series. But yeah, I think he's gonna come back. He'll be probably in some very emotional flashbacks. Probably play a role in this new Matt Karen dynamic in terms of them thinking about him probably very often, and whatever he was working on, or I guess what he was looking into, and maybe research that he did, had playing a role in the Fisk situation, and whatever ends up happening with him and his wife. So yeah, I think he'll be back, but it'll probably be a brief stay.
The other big thing from this panel, and it's something that me and Kendall talked exhaustively about, was X-Men season 97, season 2.
I know we forgot to record the podcast. we had a whole podcast that we were.
Yeah, me and Kendall were going back and forth. Had on the floor of the show floor of New York Comic Con. We had to have been an hour talking about this dynamic. So again, season 2 is happening. Season 3 is already being worked on. And Brad Winderbaum says season 4 and 5 are already being talked about. So X-Men 97 is going nowhere. This is going to be a mainstay with Marvel Studios, but the showrunner that obviously ran season 1 is ousted. Bo DeBale is not involved. So you had the announcement with what was interesting was they did not bring out Homie from What If, but they did bring out Julia and Eric Lewald, who were producers on the first show. They're now executive producers on this, along with Larry Houston, who was the creator and director of the original X-Men, the animated series. We kind of were waiting to see when the announcement was going to come of who was actually going to be leading this show, and they pushed forward with the people that started on the original show. I think that this was the best way Marvel could have gone. I think, to me, if you were going to move on from Bo, and we can talk about Bo as much as we want, but like regardless, and I have my opinions on him, but Bo has a lot of folks who still support him, a lot of folks, whether you support him or not, that still feel like he did a phenomenal job with that first season of X-Men 97. So there are going to be a lot of eyeballs on where they would go and where they would shift from him. And what was being reported was that the showrunner for What If was going to be leading this series. And from what I understand, I don't think that they're not still involved, but they again led with Julia and Eric Lewald. And then Larry Houston was supposed to be there, but could not be there for this event. Otherwise, he would have been part of this trio that are being um, announced as the executive producers on this show. So I feel like this is a really great move. I think in many ways, Bo DeMayo really, obviously he took a show that these people created, and showed the heights they could go to without the restrictions that was given to Julia and Eric and Larry back in 1992 and 1993. So to me, Larry, who also they were all consulting producers on this first season of X-Men 97. So it's not like they were just totally away from the whole game. They also helped make this first show that we saw. It makes sense to me that combining what worked in 92, 93, 94 with what they established in 97, moving forward with this group, with the same writing room. No one else in the writing room got fired. It was just obviously Bo DeMayo. I think that was really the one play I felt was hard to argue against. Any other person they would have hired, they could have come up with various different concerns about why this may have been the wrong move and why there were questions. Again, when it was all about the guy from What If, the person from What If, it was everything was all, here we go again. Like, What If was terrible. Like, why we want to see this person lead X-Men 97. These are three people that led arguably the greatest animated show of all time. So this is a different thing. So I fully supported the move. I'm really excited to see what they do with season 2, along with the various seasons beyond that. But Kendall vehemently disagreed. In fact, said that he was quite concerned about the future of X-Men 97 because of these hirings. So why do you feel that way, Kendall?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of my hottest takes I've had in a while.
Hot take here, Kendall.
Yeah, hot take. I'm actually concerned about the future of X-Men 97 based off this announcement. And again, it's not to take anything away from X-Men the animated series, not to take anything away from the creators of X-Men the animated series, because obviously it's a classic, legendary show. And this is not to say that, it's not to, deem full support of everything about Bo DeMayo and Bo was innocent, free Bo, none of that. Again, I acknowledge that I think Bo DeMayo did an excellent job with X-Men 97. And when, the show ended and we all watched it, there was a big concern that it was like, all right, this was great, but like, what's the future of this show going to look like now with somebody else, right? That's just a natural concern. Given, look, again, whether it's his own, embellishment, grandstanding, whatever you want to call it, he definitely made it seem like he was the driving force of everything, right? Maybe that's an exaggeration, but that's the vibe I got. And so there's a lot of obviously questions about what the future of this series looks like without him. So that concern is going to be there no matter what, right? No matter who you bring in, if it's going to be somebody different, there's going to be concern. The reason I'm more concerned coming out of Comic-Con with that announcement is, while I think it's a very smart play for Marvel politically, and from a PR standpoint, because again, what better way to sell the future of the series than bringing back the original creators of a show that was super popular, and also gives you protection, so to speak, from any criticism from Bo DeMayo, right? Because Bo DeMayo's been very open to be like, oh, these guys don't know what they're doing. Here we go, classic Marvel, screwing up again. What If came out, oh, What If stinks. This guy's going to do X-Men 97. You guys should be very concerned, yada, yada, yada. He's not going to say any of that about the original creators of X-Men the animated series. I mean, he might.
Yeah, I'm saying you say that. That's a big leap, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not going to say he won't.
Yeah, by the way,
I would
go as far as to say he probably will.
By the way, I said AC Bradley, who was the original What If creator. It was Matt Chauncey who did season 3 of What If that is involved with this season. So Matt Chauncey, not AC Bradley, just
right. And so, yeah, I mean, you guys are right. Probably will, right? I guess I would advise him, as probably his lawyers have advised him nonstop, is just to don't tweet, right? Just don't talk, don't tweet, don't say anything. But he's probably going to say something. But it does give them some cover to be like, look, this guy's blasting the X-Men the animated series creators. Like, nothing you can do to keep this guy happy. So from that perspective, I think it's smart. But from a story perspective, from a fan perspective, I'm concerned because to me, I don't think that what those guys, those people represent in terms of what X-Men the Animated Series was, I don't think that they make sense as the best people to move forward with what X-Men 97 was. Um, I just feel like you're doing two different shows when you're trying to do one show um, that was an episodic, arc-driven series made in the 90s for kids, than a show that was emulating your modern prestige drama for adults. 10 episode linear arc. I just think that there's just so many people that know how to do that style of storytelling, that to go back to the old well. Now look, if they're just involved in a sort of an emeritus role and they're not really going to be the ones driving every single plot, the entire plot and every single storyline going forward, that's fine, I guess. I mean, then it's not that big a deal. But if you're telling me that like they're going to come in and they're going to now make the show that that they have experience making, I would say they don't have much on their resume since X-Men 97 to make me think that that they would be able to do something like X-Men 97, or since that's X-Men the Animated Series, to make me think they'd be able to do something that's like X-Men 97. And so doesn't mean they can't, but I'm just saying I'm more concerned, right? Doesn't mean they won't make a great show. Doesn't mean that the writers involved can't write great X-Men. I'm just giving Bo DeMeo more credit than maybe he earned, but I just think X-Men 97 was awesome. And I think replacing him without if they said they were doing J.J. Abrams or Damon Lindelof or someone in that ilk that just knows, Noah Hawley, or just somebody that knows modern prestige storytelling, I'd be more, even if they're not total X-Men heads, which I think you should be for a show like this. And we know Noah Hawley definitely has X-Men experience, but like, I'd be less concerned, because I'd feel, all right, I don't know if this story is gonna be good, but I know that this person knows that style of storytelling. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned with this announcement. Again, it's not a death nail, but and I think season 2 is gonna be awesome no matter what, right? As long, I'm assuming based off the trailer we saw, it seems like it's going in the same direction that it left off at. The question is just, you mentioned season 3, season 4, season 5. That's going to be the real indicator of like how great will this show be post Bo DeMeo. I'm sure it'll be good, but if it even takes a bit of a step back, all of a sudden it's not going to be nearly as popular. But that's just how this stuff works. But if you start out with a banger season 1, season 2, the second seasons 3 and 4 are bad, or not even bad. The second they're like okay, these shows fade.
Right, but what I argued with you last week is the reality is that could happen with Bo DeMeo. Like a same show creator could be on a show for beyond one season, and then by season 2, 3, 4, I mean, ask Game of Thrones fans, ask Dexter fans, ask fans of almost any popular show, that there are plenty of times where the same creator is on a show maybe for too long, or they lose the steam, and then people lose interest anyway. So just because somebody is involved with a show doesn't mean that they because they're still here now that the show is dead. Like, right, like that, or if a new person's on, that show is dead. Like an old person who was previously on the show can come onto the show or stay on the show and mess that up. So I don't know. I don't see it as this automatic. Well, older people means they can't write a show that was made just last year that they consulted on. Like this, it's not like they're coming in and they don't know what kind of offense is being run. They help consult. They help create the offense that was ran for season 1. And I don't know how you feel, Sham. I just feel like with this agreement I have, I just don't think that there is this crazy fundamental difference between what the old show was and what the new show was. And I'm someone who's watched every episode of X-Men 92 probably 3-4 times over, at least. That is one of my all time favorite shows. I watch it all the time, and maybe this one has a little more violence. Um, Maybe this one's a little more quote unquote sexy. But outside of that, I don't think that it's an entirely different show that I was watching. Yeah, people have different ideas, new ideas, things evolve. But I don't think that because Eric, Larry, and Julia were working in 1992 that they have no new ideas or they've seen no things to change or to improve upon since then. I think they to see what worked and see what was successful in season one and maybe even improve upon it because they're going to have a better understanding of these characters than anybody because they created them from the animated universe. Of course, the ultimate creators are your Stan Lee's, Jack Kirby's, your Chris Claremont's, those guys, Grant Morrison's.
Right. Yeah, honestly, I'm with you, EJ, and I think kind of we briefly touched upon this as we were leaving the panel too.
Yeah, I do. So you said.
Yeah, no, EJ, we're basically sharing the brain. And it's funny. Even when you hopped on here, I was ranting. When you hopped on the show, I was ranting about George Lucas and people wanting to just put him out to pasture because he, and whatnot. I'm like, this is giving me similar vibes of like, oh, put him out to pasture. And I'm like, no, we don't need to put him out to pasture. Like, the show was good, and I'm the same as you in the sense that like I think all of us we all watched those X-Men episodes like a billion times. We watched all, we watched every episode, all of the arcs, and it still holds up today. It's very well written. It was the voice acting, the storylines, the dialogue. It was just very good. And I even go as far as to say the opposite. I'd say this X-Men 97 was so successful because it was building off of what they did.
100%.
I wouldn't say, I'm worried about them ruining this. Before X-Men 97 even came out, we were worried about the opposite. Yeah. We were like, are they going to mess up?
Right. Yeah, Marvel Studios.
The old. Are they going to mess up the old show? Now we're saying the opposite. Now we're saying, why are we bringing these old people back? No.
I mean, look, yeah. I said it before the show came out. I told EJ this in our unrecorded podcast. I told him, I was like, I think I said this before the show came out, that I had concerns about X-Men 97 in part because I was worried it was going to be a bit too much of we're going to try and play the hits and it's going to be a nostalgia fest and it's just going to be more of the same old, and it just wasn't. Right. In fact, I loved it so much in part because I was like, this is a new X-Men show. It's in an X-Men the animated series skin, and it's got a lot of the same characters, and the characters are very similar, and everything is, and it's obviously in that setting. But from a story standpoint, this is a brand new type of show, and from just a formatting standpoint, it's a brand new type of show, and that's what made me like it even more than maybe I expected I would. To me, and again, this isn't to take away from X-Men the animated series. To me, this would be like Teen Titans, right? Like if Teen Titans, as much as we all love Teen Titans, one of my favorite animated shows of all time, if they brought back Teen Titans and said we're going to do it in a same kind of linear, prestige TV kind of format, and age it up slightly, and it was awesome. And then they went back, and then same thing. The guy who created it all of a sudden is gone for the rest of it, and they were like, we're just going to bring back the people who did the original Teen Titans. I'd be a little bit concerned. I'd be like, do as great as Teen Titans is, do they know how to do what they did with this show? Like I think that,
but what you always keep losing sight of is it's not like these that it's not like Erica, Julie, and Larry weren't involved in season one of this show. They were. Like you're making it sound like they're pulling people off the street who literally did nothing and said, "All right, come on and now do this," which is not the case. They're bringing people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I personally. Yeah, I mean, look, I personally, I don't think. We will never actually know, obviously, what the full extent of their involvement was. I mean, maybe we will at some point, but like obviously, we don't know at this time what the full extent in detail of their involvement was. But I don't personally. I don't think that their involvement was. I think Bo DeMayo obviously was the chief at the head of the snake, and I think that the writers' room, and who, like you said, they're all still there, and there's obviously other producers on it.
Right.
I think that they're down the list.
I know, but like that's the problem. I just feel
drivers of the format.
But I feel like this is very much the Bo DeMayo spin on this that we know just isn't realistic when it comes to how we talk about television is made. That it was Bo DeMayo and the Pips. It was Bo DeMayo and the supporting cast. It was Bo DeMayo and his friends. It was like that's not how television works, and especially when he's gonna be making a project where he's actually literally continuing a project from someone else. That makes it even.
But I mean, we just talked about Daredevil, right?
Right.
Like we just talked about Daredevil being made by new people, and how much it was different in his struggle, right? Like, and how they had to like go back to the original format because they realized this new thing wasn't working.
Right. The original format, which would be in this case be Larry, Julia, and Eric. Like. That doesn't apply.
No, well, I'm talking X-Men '97, right? Again, I personally think X-Men '97 is a different show.
But you can't say it's a different
X-Men '97
show. The show continues the story that was how the first season, the last season ended.
The story, yes, the story is continued, but but I just I don't get it. Like I think there's the thing about the thing about X-Men '97 that is different, right? Is the obviously, like, there's obviously, because again, it's written for adults, so there's a lot more complex. There's a lot more complex nuance in terms of the, dichotomy of good versus evil, right? Like, there's in the original X-Men the animated series, it's a lot more clear who the good guy is, who the bad guy is, right? In X-Men '97, those types of lines are blurred a little bit more, as they should be, in a more adult, more modern storytelling perspective, right? You're telling a show for kids. Nobody needs there to be more ambiguity between who the villain is or, what's the deal with Magneto. We all know Magneto's a villain, right? It doesn't have to be complex in that regard.
Right, but that's a story choice. That's not it's a different show.
That's what I'm worried about. That's exactly what I'm worried about is the story. I don't care about the characters. I totally understand the characters are going to be well done. Right, because they created the characters,
and also
for that show.
First of all, I would disagree because Magneto at many times on that show works with the X-Men. That's why I keep saying when we talked about it, I don't feel like you have a full understanding of the first show because I say that Magneto was just always the bad guy, and he has a whole,
but I think that the lines between
he has a whole arc in the Savage Land with Professor X. He has
but the show is totally episodic. Like once the arcs are over. It then hits the reset button, and you can watch them in any order. A lot of the time, like again the way the format is.
Episodic means the way you talk about episodic, you make it sound like it's a sitcom, which it isn't. Episodic means the beginning, the story begins with a conflict, and then it ends by the end of the 27 minutes. The conflict is resolved. That is not how X-Men '97 works. Or should be X-Men
no,
92
I'm saying episodic. I'm saying episodic in the sense that. Like the order in which you watch it and everything, like it's like watching. I'm not gonna go as far as say it's like watching SpongeBob because I'm not gonna be disrespectful.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can't.
You know what I mean? Like it's like Teen Titans, right? Like Teen Titans.
No, it's not.
Again, great show, but I can watch Teen Titans. And
no, it's not. I mean, keep arguing.
You can watch one episode.
No, it's not. I'm gonna keep.
And then you watch
you're wrong. I don't think that's accurate.
Kendall, you're wrong.
X-Men had like longer arcs.
Teen Titans.
No, their arcs. The arcs are not as linear.
Yes, they are. What are you talking about? That's what I'm trying to say. You don't understand. You don't understand the show because the arcs are linear. I don't know.
Continued arcs in the show.
If you decide to just randomly watch on Disney XD and just say I'm just gonna watch this whatever, and they're just throwing it randomly, that's one thing. But if you watch the show in order, it 100% is linear. This idea that it's if they were just
and that's why
it's nothing like Teen Titans. That is a terrible.
Yeah, and that's why when we that's why when we reviewed the show, I said that. Part of the reason I liked it is because it felt like the old show with new animation.
Right.
It felt like the original show with like very upgraded
for sure, like
animation and color pop, and obviously it was a little more violent. That's kind of for me. That's the biggest difference. Is the animation?
I know you guys got X-Men.
It's more violent. I think
you guys got X-Men 97.
What do you mean? I said X-Men 97 is one of the greatest things of all time. I've said that a million times on this show. I
just don't think you guys got like the point of X-Men 97 is my thing. Like I think
what was the point of X-Men 97?
You can enjoy it, right? Like I enjoy X-Men the animated series, but I don't think you guys got
what was the point?
Again, it's telling a different type of story than what X-Men the animated series is trying to tell.
X-Men 97. Okay, so we got to back up because X-Men the animated series is 4 seasons. So when you say it's telling a different type of show, it's like even that is tough because you're comparing one season of 10 episodes to a show that was doing 20 plus episodes a season for 4 seasons.
Yeah, and I don't think that the old creators from 1992 can do the same kind of story in 2025.
Why not? People were calling for them to do that. They literally took the show.
They haven't done anything in 30 years. They haven't done anything in 30 years, EJ. Look at their filmography. I don't want to be disrespectful to them, but they haven't done anything in 30 years, and you're gonna tell me that they're going to make a Marvel show in the same way that they made it back in the day. Then it's going to be a problem.
See, that's the thing.
The show was made for kids.
See, you can't
look at Young Justice. We talked about Young Justice when we did our podcast on the Comic-Con floor. Young Justice was great, right? I love Young Justice. We all love Young Justice. It was made for kids, right? It was great. When Greg Weisman, who I love, Greg Weisman, I love Spectacular Spider-Man, when they evolved it into seasons 3 and season 4. The show fell off. The show was not terrible. I don't think it was terrible, but there's a lot of people that do think it was terrible. A lot of people that didn't like it.
Right.
In part.
Well, right, but I don't think that's a fair analogy because I think you're overstating it how everyone hated it. Number one. Number two, because we did the.
No, I didn't say everyone hated it, but a lot of people hated it.
Because you said you said this podcast for weeks and did the show every week talking about how good every episode was. You can't now come back and say, "Well, actually, the show fell off."
A lot of people. I didn't say I hated it. I said a lot of people hated it. That's not a mistake. That's not an inaccuracy.
My point, though, we're talking about what you think in your opinion. So
I thought it was worse. What do you want me to say?
No, I know, but you didn't. But you sat here and you did the show every week talking about that show and saying, "Oh, this was great. I like how you did this."
So you want me to say that I thought that Young Justice?
No, my point though
is that 3 and 4 were as good as 1 and 2.
What I'm saying is you're using that as a convenience to make a point that I still don't think really applies at all because you're saying that
I think Greg Weisman is one of the greatest animated television show creators of all time.
Okay,
he made a show in 2010. And because he took a 5-year, 10-year jump, the show dipped a little.
Right,
I'm very concerned about people. Because the format was different. And I think in part why Young Justice struggled was it was a different show. They tried a totally different format, and it didn't work.
What was totally different?
So to tell me that I think that Larry Houston and the Lee Walds from 1992 could take a show. And do it in an entirely different format.
Time out. They're not doing anything different from what was already done. They're taking what they did in 97 already, and like you keep saying they're going to come in and then turn it back to X-Men 92.
Yeah, that's...
No, I'm not. I didn't say that's going to happen.
That's what you said.
I'm just saying that...
You just said that.
No, but my point is... My whole entire point from the beginning, if you listened, was I have concern. Right? Doesn't mean it's going to be bad, but that I have concern that, and I'm more concerned than if they brought in name modern storyteller, because that whoever modern storyteller, I'd have less concern about their ability to adapt to 2025. We can debate the differences between X-Men the animated series and X-Men 97. I think there are differences. You guys don't. That's fine. What I don't think is debatable is that there's got to be a little bit of concern to how somebody's going to adapt to writing something in 2025 when they wrote something in 1992, right? And again, I think there's differences. If you don't think there's differences, then I understand that you're just like, yeah, it's just this is now season 7 of X-Men the animated series. It's going to be fine. That's totally fine. I look at X-Men 97 as a completely different show. And so when I look at this being season 2, I'm not worried about season 2 because again, Bo DeMeo wrote it. But now I'm looking at season 3 of X-Men 97. Season 4, I'm not saying it'll be worse. Because, again, maybe they won't even change it, right? Maybe they don't have that much involvement. Maybe it's a political move, which I would say is a very smart deal. But if they then say, let's kind of bring in more flavor from X-Men the animated series, I think that'd be a mistake.
I don't know how they would bring in more flavor from a show that they're doing. That it's the same show. That's what.
Because again, you guys don't understand that there are very much differences between X-Men and animated.
But the differences you keep alluding to,
X-Men 97.
But the difference you're alluding to are not accurate. So that's why I feel like
No, that's ridiculous. It's a
said,
totally different format.
No, because you just said that. What? No, you said
if you don't understand how prestige TV works compared to a cartoon in the 1990s, I can't help it.
Wait, time out. You just said that it was the same as how Teen Titans was created. That is not true.
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. I used Teen Titans as an example of episodic storytelling. And that the arcs in X-Men the Animated Series are episodic. I didn't say the show is episodic. I said the arcs in X-Men the Animated Series are episodic, just like Teen Titans. Not that Teen Titans has episodic arcs, but that the show is and the episodes are episodic.
No,
and I use that as an example of what episodic storytelling is.
And I said that was wrong because
X-Men animated series.
You could drop into any Teen Titans episode and you could be fine. That is not the case.
More or less.
That is okay.
And that's not entirely the case in Teen Titans.
That's not the case with X-Men. That's not the case. It's just not.
No, that's not entirely the case with. It's not entirely the case with Teen Titans.
You made that point.
I know because
the point you made.
Because EJ, what you got to understand is that we can't look at everything as an absolute, right? There's a spectrum. So when I say you can jump into any episode of Teen Titans,
but you're making it an absolute. If you jump into but you made it an absolute.
Well, let me finish.
But you made but let me
if you jump into season 4,
you made it an absolute that X-Men '97 is nothing like the old show, which is ridiculous. So you can't say, well, I can't take absolutes in saying that X-Men is not like Teen Titans. But there are similarities. But you saying that X-Men 97...
you said it was totally different.
X-Men 97, that is literally taking the same story, is an entirely different
show. Yeah, but even totally different...
You said that. You said that on the show. Am I lying?
So let me explain. So when I say Teen Titans is episodic, that does not mean, again, you can jump into any episode at any point and it'll all be the exact same. Right? We all understand. Just like SpongeBob, right? You can't jump into SpongeBob season 8 and... There's going to be characters introduced as, you missed season 1. Doesn't mean it's not episodic, right? So with X-Men the Animated Series, sure, if you jump into season 4, there's going to be things that you missed. Doesn't mean that it's not episodic. If you don't understand that point, and you don't understand how it's different than X-Men 97, then I can't help you. I'm sorry.
So how is it different?
I mean, it's, like what EJ said, we've only had one season of X-Men 97.
Right.
So, and it was only 10 episodes.
And it was very different than what we got.
It was only. I mean, it was only
from X-Men. It
was shorter. I don't know. You saying it was very different? How was it very?
Yeah, it was only 10 episodes.
It was only 10 episodes. How was it?
I mean,
that's how modern storytelling is. You don't have 25 episodes and 5 arcs to tell a show, and just do random episodic arcs.
Right. Well, that's what Marvel's doing. There are other shows where they do that. You watch what happens on. And
I'd also make the case. I would also make the case that X-Men 97 did have arcs.
On any ABC, CBS, NBC, they're not doing 10-episode seasons, Kendall. What are you talking about?
Those shows don't exist anymore. Not the ones that aren't episodic. Not the ones that aren't episodic. Those don't really exist anymore. Everything now is limited. There's a reason why the Flash and Arrow don't exist anymore. Those types of shows don't exist. But there are other
shows that are in their place that are not 10 episodes. Is my
point.
Most
of them are shorter now because that's how storytelling is. You don't have 25 episodes to tell those kind of stories. We all understand that's the case. When you watch a streaming show, how many of those streaming shows are over 15 episodes? Most of them are between 13 and 10 nowadays, right? Like X-Men 97. To say that these people from 1992 that we're telling 26 episode seasons.
Kendall. There's a.
Are you watching NCI? You're watching 10 episodes.
Grey's Anatomy is a show from a long time ago.
Yeah, Kendall. We're talking about. There's this very significant.
Yeah, you're just.
There's a couple of things that I'm noticing. First, there's a very significant thing where you're, like EJ is pointing out, like you very much are kind of acting like these people that made X-Men, the people that made the original show. We're just sitting around. You keep saying, bring these people in from the 90s. Like, they were just sitting around collecting dust.
What have they been doing? And now they're coming in. Bring up their IMDb. I promise you.
They were just sitting around collecting. They were just sitting around, swatting flies or whatever,
That's exactly what they've been doing. I'm telling you. I promise you. Look at their IMDb, and you will look at it and you'll be
Kendall,
like, "Wait, you guys haven't done anything since X-Men the Animated Series. This is insane."
But Kendall, they first of all, as EJ's pointed out, they did consult on this one, but then on top of that, they made the show.
Shout out to Bo DeMayo for giving them the
X-Men '97 felt, and I know, and maybe I don't know. Part of me's like, maybe you didn't really watch as much of the show, or maybe you don't remember. But this show feels. X-Men '97 feels like that show. It feels like a continuation of that show.
You say things that are inaccurate.
With upgraded animation and more violence.
You say, "Oh, Magneto's always evil," or "Oh, the arcs." You could just drop in any episodes and say, "You can't say I."
I didn't say Magneto. I didn't say Magneto's always evil. See, that's a ridiculous talking point. I never said Magneto's always evil. I said the lines between good versus evil are not as blurred.
And you use Magneto
in X-Men Animated
Series. You not use Magneto as a point that prove that good and evil is different.
Yes.
Then why are you talking about? Then what are you talking about?
That's not the same as saying Magneto is always evil, right?
All right,
that's exactly what you just said. I never said that.
You're doing semantics to get away from the.
That's not semantics.
It is semantics.
That's a totally different point.
No, it's not.
It's a totally different point.
It is semantics.
To say that Magneto is always evil is a ridiculous statement.
Whatever. I don't give a crap.
Someone that's never watched the show.
About that. The point is, you said something that was inaccurate. That Magneto.
That the lines are less blurred in a 1992 kids cartoon. That's an insane statement.
Did I not just give him an example of how the lines were blurred? Did I not just do that?
Yeah.
And you're ignoring it. You're ignoring it. So stop doing this thing where you're like, oh, I'm acknowledging what you're saying.
Tell me the time where Charles Xavier does anything shady in X-Men the Animated Series. Or is Charles Xavier just a perfect person in X-Men the Animated Series?
I feel like the last season he does a lot of shady stuff.
All right. I mean,
there's plenty of times in the original series where Wolverine or other members of the X-Men are questioning Charles Xavier.
Yeah,
where Charles Xavier questions himself. Which again, you keep saying is like, oh, it's just some baby kid show, like it's Wolverine does it, like it's Spidey and his kid friends or whatever the show is now. X-Men, man, they had some real arcs, man, that dealt with some real stuff. Charles questioning his decisions, and they're showing, maybe he should have had the audience like, oh, maybe he should have done something different. Like the show definitely had layers. It was not just this basic surface level, just superhero nonsense every week.
So to put a bow on it on my end, when we had the same conversation, I told EJ, I was like, when I said I think the show is very different than the original, EJ was like, there's plenty of similarity. Look at the Jubilee episode. And I was like, thank God. Yes, the Jubilee episode was like X-Men the Animated Series. And you know what? It was the worst episode of X-Men 97. That's not a coincidence.
That's one example.
That's not a coincidence. That's all I gotta say.
That's one example, bro. All right, go to the Charles Xavier.
That's the most obvious example.
The Charles Xavier episode when he's in space is just like the last show. Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding? All I gotta say.
Yeah, because you got nothing else to say.
Rewatch the Jubilee episode.
Right, one
and you'll be like, yeah, this is the next one.
And who made that show? Who made that episode? Oh, not his.
What Bo DeMayo said that he didn't want that in there.
Oh, so see, that's my point. Is that
he said he didn't want it in there,
and that's my point. That
he didn't let him do the storm thing, flesh it out.
Anything that doesn't fit a narrative you're pushing is Bo DeMayo talking points. And anything that isn't,
I don't know. Bo DeMayo, man, Bo's just saying stuff,
right?
Bro.
It's like, it's ridiculous.
I'm not listening to Bo over the originals, bro. I'm not listening to him.
And that's exactly why this was a smart deal by Marvel, because they know people will let their nostalgia blind them, and that's fine.
But you're saying it's not going to work, so you don't.
I'm saying if this gets worse,
we don't know what happened. Kendall, you don't know what happened.
I'll be frank.
Kendall, you don't know what happened. You're just some guy on Twitter is saying stuff.
What do you mean?
We don't know.
Because you're saying, it's people letting nostalgia blind them. Bo is just saying, I wrote this, I did that, and you're just believing it, bro.
No, I'm saying nostalgia is going to blind us when we say. No, let me finish. I'm saying nostalgia is going to blind us when we say things like, "I'm going to believe the original creator is more than Bo." That's fine, right? We can do that, but that's a nostalgic viewpoint at the end of the day. But
actually, it's not.
But also,
I'll
be honest. I don't think even if it does take a dip, I'm not sure if you guys will acknowledge it when we look back at Young Justice and say Young Justice Season 4 is just as good as Young Justice Season 1, when it's not. And I know that was maybe you didn't say that exactly, but you made it seem like there was not much of a dip in quality. I think there was, but maybe if there is, I don't even know if we'll acknowledge if there's a dip because it was made by the original creators. So maybe it was a smart play by Marvel to bring them back at the end of the day.
I just again, I would say like Shamar and I are in agreement. I don't. You could say that we didn't understand X-Men 97. That's your opinion. That's fine to say. I think we both agree. I don't think you understood the original series, which I think is fair because again, you are making points.
Yeah, you got to do a rewatch.
You're making points that I think if you rewatch the show don't really align with your points. You're saying that the show you could drop in one episode and understand what was happening when there are so many arcs where you
can jump into any arc. Yes,
you get. What do you mean? No, and that's not even.
If you started arc from beginning to end, you can do that.
Even that's not true because they're
and it's not 100%, but it's you'll be fine.
Well, okay, but that's
you'll
not
be fine.
true.
You'll understand what's happening. If you jump into any episode of X-Men 97, you have to start from episode 1 and go to understand episode 10. If you don't, you're going to be lost.
Because it's a shorter season. And
it's not because it's shorter.
It is
because it's a different format.
No, you can't do arcs if you're doing 10 episodes. That doesn't take a rocket science. That's math.
I'm also confused as to why this is like something you don't think these people can do. Like they wrote why
look at their IMDb. You guys still haven't pulled up their IMDb.
Well, I don't care what they've done. You can't go from writing a 20 episode season to a 10 episode season.
Eric did 3 episodes of
what?
Ninja Turtles. He did other things. I just pulled it up. I didn't
like what?
He did 3 episodes of Ninja Turtles. He did Transformers.
Which Ninja Turtle show?
The 2000s one. 2007.
That is irrelevant.
Episodes of Ninja Turtles. He did NFL Rush Zone. He did Transformers. He wrote an episode of Transformers. He did. There's a show Robozuno. I don't know what that is. We did 5 episodes of that. Like this is Eric. I pulled up Eric's thing. You asked me to do it. You love Ninja Turtles. He did that show for 2 episodes. I don't know what this point is. That like someone who because they only did one thing 30 years ago, and again,
and they're not well versed in the modern storytelling.
Once again, but you keep saying that, but they consulted on this previous season, and then you keep going to the point of I don't know.
So if Bill Parcells consulted with a coaching staff, I wouldn't want him inheriting the job. I don't want if Bill Belichick. And if Bill Belichick consulted with a team last year in the NFL, doesn't mean he knows what he's doing when he's coaching. Bill Belichick was consulting with the University of Washington last year, in college football. And then he takes his own job. He doesn't know what he's doing, right? Because he hasn't coached in a long time, or he doesn't know this modern game.
Well, you're taking a consultant. These people were consulting producers. They're helping craft.
That's what I take that to be.
Right. But that's your interpretation. But that's the other people. Other people don't have to have that interpretation. And I think to impose that as this is fact, and this is the only case that it can be.
Okay, but if you take that point out of it, everything else they have nothing else to lean on. Is my concern in terms of their understanding of modern storytelling.
You said they did nothing, and Larry and Eric.
And then my understanding of modern
worked on shows you like. So I mean, so what are we doing here? Like, so this idea that when did
the Ninja Turtles come out, EJ?
2006, 2007.
That was in 2003.
The episodes he worked on were in 2006, 2007.
That's a long time ago. Again, my point, and it's a different kind of show, but my point is. Yes, I have no problem if you're making X-Men the animated series again. All right, if you're doing that kind of a show, I would have.
You literally your whole thesis has been you have a problem with it.
But
you didn't understand my point. If you're making X-Men the animated series again, and you're doing the exact same format, I'm sure it'll be fine. But when I'm telling you, you're gonna then try and translate your format into what X-Men 97 did, which was make it into a more modernized formatting of X-Men the animated series. That's the nicest way I could put it. That's the simplest way I could put it. It's a modernized formatting of X-Men the animated series. I have concerns that they're going to be able to do that well when you haven't worked on anything worth a damn in the last 20 years.
And the difference also, I'll wrap it with it. You seem to think that this is just this impossible thing that nobody can understand. I don't think it's that.
You're right.
I don't know if it's impossible.
Well,
I just have concerns.
Okay, fine. You have concerns, but you presented it.
You seem very adamant with your concerns, Kendall.
Somebody who works as a professional in television
can't understand
how to go from 22 episodes to 10. And that to me,
Yeah, I'm
that
just
to me
I'm not
is
understanding
ludicrous
that.
to me, in my opinion, because everyone will tell you it is way harder to do a 25 episode season than it is to do a 10. It is, and you ask any TV writer, any person that
Yeah.
does
If
television,
it was the opposite, I'd be
anyone that
more
does
inclined to believe you.
animation, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to do 10 episodes. So this idea that, well, because you did the harder thing, which is keeping someone's attention for 25 episodes, and you did it through arcs, and you can't find a way to do that when you're trying to do 10 episodes.
It's a totally different format.
I just said
totally different writing format.
But it's easier. But my point is, it's easier.
It's not
different.
necessarily easier.
No, nobody in TV agrees with you. Nobody in TV agrees with you. Like,
if I told you to write 5-episode arcs, and they're just random 5-episode arcs,
they're not random 5-episode arcs. Again,
if I just say adapt the comics, right? Just adapt Day to Future Past.
That's what they did. That's what Bo just did.
Comic, adapt that comic.
You don't think Bo just
over
adapted
10
comics?
Episodes?
Yeah, that's what Bo did.
Bo adapted the genocide.
That's what Bo did, bro. He didn't invent this one.
Yes, and he framed it all into a 10 episode arc. In a modernized format.
Right. What is the modernized format? 10. You keep saying modernized 10 episodes. You mean 10 episodes. That's what you mean.
Prestige TV.
Right. 10 episodes. That's what you mean, right? But you keep using words, and like you're using 3 or 4 words to mean one thing. We mean just one thing, which is writing a story that's a complete story.
Yeah, but if you just simplify modernized storytelling to mean just 10 episodes,
I just did
and that there's not going to be anything.
Like,
I'm saying if that's what we're doing, then I don't think that's a full understanding of the differences between writing a show like X-Men the Animated Series and writing what.
But Kendall, you just cut
X-Men in '97 was trying to do.
But see, you're cutting me off because you're not letting me explain what I was
All
saying.
right.
I literally said you're writing a 10 episode arc, a 10 episode story that's a complete story that tells one story from episode 1 to episode 10 in 10 episodes. That is what you mean when you say modernized. Like, I don't like, but like you're using 5 or 6 different words to try to get to something which is when actually you're explaining a simple topic, a simple concept. It's not.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of going in circles now, and I know, and clearly where there's a disagreement, we're not going to agree.
Yeah, I mean, we'll never really get the answer, right? Until we get to a season.
Until the show comes out, we get to
5,
we'll
really never have an answer. This is all theoretical. I don't. If
even
this comes off as disrespect to the original creators, then I apologize for the misunderstanding. I think they did a good job with X-Men the Animated Series. And I don't think that we should be disrespectful to Bo DeMeo as well. I think he did a great job, and we should understand he deserves a lot of credit for what he did. But at the end of the day, again, we'll see. We'll see when that time comes.
We'll see how the show turns out. I think I would go across to say, I think the original writers deserve the utmost respect. I think even what Bo wrote is a testament to building off of the original storyline. I think a lot of what he got, and he consulted with them. I don't know if he talks about them on Twitter. He does a lot of talking on Twitter. I don't know if he talks about how he consulted them on Twitter and how the impact that they had.
When he started this, he did
because he was building off of their content, and I guarantee he was taking things from what they were telling him and what their plans were. If he denies that, I don't believe him. So he definitely took their ideas and infused whatever stuff that he was coming up with. So I think we should be giving them, the creators, the respect and that they deserve, as well as obviously the original comic book writers, which they were adapting as well. And the show will come out. The story will be as good as it is. I look forward to the animation. That's the part that I look forward to the most. I mean, just in terms of, I'm sure the story will be good because it's X-Men, and X-Men has good stories. And I don't think, I haven't seen an X-Men. I know, Kendall, you're an X-Men Evolution guy, but outside of that, I haven't seen an X-Men. I haven't seen an X-Men so far that's had like a trash, outside of obviously a couple movies or whatever. But an animated show that has a trash story, haven't seen it. Probably won't see it. I'm sure the show will be good, but we gotta wait and see. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, in an interview with Variety just days before Advanced Firing, original showrunner Eric Lee Wall said, "We love and respect both taking on the job. He's one of those super fans who knows our shows better than we do. We want it to be an extension. We want it to be like the next episode of the show that all of us on the staff love and grew up with. They could have done a spinoff or a different character or team, and yet they chose to be an extension of our show. which just is ridiculously gratifying to us. So they don't see this as a entirely different show.
I know it scares me.
Uh, okay, but but they're saying that this was an extension, and those are the people who created it.
Yeah.
So let's get to some stuff, other stuff that's happening.
That's how Bo approached it.
Yeah, let's get to other stuff that's happening. But again, it was good stuff from that panel. Again, Wonder Man trailer is out. Make sure you check that out. And then there's again the details regarding Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Make sure you watch season 1. That was a very, very good season 1 show. So I'm excited about that. Real quickly, let's just run through the gamut on some of the stuff before we get out of here. So the rumors about Secret Wars, and I thought this was a quite an interesting one. So obviously, Secret Wars will be the movie that follows Doomsday. We don't obviously know the end of Doomsday, but there's an assumption, considering that it's Secret Wars and that Doctor Doom is a big part of it, that we will end Doomsday with some version of Battle World created by Doctor Doom, which will involve Doom creating mismatched type of worlds from broken worlds or worlds that are facing incursions. With that comes the idea of, well, if that's the case, then could we be seeing a combining of universes that we've seen through television or through Marvel make an appearance on the big screen in this movie? Charlie Cox over that weekend in Comic Con Weekend was asked about the idea that Daredevil, played by Ben Affleck, could be making an appearance in Secret Wars, and his exact quote was, "I have no idea what you were talking about," which is a very interesting answer in the sense that, like, he obviously knows Ben Affleck was Daredevil. He obviously knows that Secret Wars is going to have various different people involved. So it seems to be like it's either a yes or no answer, or at least unless he doesn't know, maybe that that hasn't been included yet. Which maybe that's where this could make sense. But it was interesting that he said that. And then working off of that quote, it was my time John Hello who made the tweet that quote, the idea is to bring, and he put in all capital letters, everyone back in Secret Wars. So to me, when you think about cameos, we saw those cameos that happened in Daredevil and Wolverine that included Gambit, Blade, Elektra. This is going to that showed that the Fox universe was alive and well, at least when it came to that movie. This tweet from Maya Time Hello talking about Daredevil suggests that anybody's on the table that you may have seen on a big screen. I'll go to Kendall first. Would you want to see Daredevil, Ben Affleck appear in this movie? And just how expansive do you feel like this movie will get once we get past Doomsday?
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of Ben Affleck, I like the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie, and so I have no problem with Ben Affleck coming back. Again, if he shows up and not Charlie Cox, maybe there'll be people who complain, but I really don't think so. But in terms of, I guess the question really is, what does everybody mean, right? Because at the end of the day, we've gotten most of the people off the board at some point. I think the exceptions, and the question obviously one is it'll be including like people returning, right? Obviously Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield would certainly qualify as everybody, Hugh Jackman, everybody, Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool, those types. But then I think Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider is obviously a big one. Obviously, we got a lot of the Fox characters already. I mean, everybody also, to me, it seemed unlikely, but to me, I guess I'm going to go back to, my biggest, I'd say, hope for the reboot of the MCU is, I think, McAvoy and Fassbender and that group of the X-Men should be in Secret Wars. And I've said I think they should be the Professor X and Magneto for the next iteration of the MCU. But, I'm tired of seeing Patrick Stewart. I'll be honest. I'd rather see James McAvoy and Fassbender. We'll get them in Doomsday. Obviously, the older X-Men, but I I think that'd be the biggest elephant in the room when it comes to like what does everybody mean, right? Because again, we've gotten a lot of these people already. Obviously, there's some Punishers out there. We got Wesley Snipes. Like I said, you got Ghost Rider, Agents of Shields, another sort of elephant in the room because they're the only sect of Marvel television that hasn't been brought back at all, right? It hasn't been even a reference, hasn't been,
Well, the Inhumans also haven't.
Anything.
Inhumans haven't been brought back, and at this point,
we got Black Bolt in.
Sure.
We got Black Bolt in Doctor Strange, so it's not all of them, obviously, but
right, yeah, there's one person.
Agents of Shield. I mean, we've seen Coulson, but we haven't gotten any like the original characters from that. Really,
flashbacks.
All right,
because Captain Marvel's a flashback.
Right, and so to me, like that would just be my question, right? Everybody, and look, this isn't Marvel saying this, right? So I'm not gonna hold it against Marvel. So, you said everybody's coming back, like I don't know what everybody means, right? And of course, my time to shine is, being obviously very coy in part because it's a lot easier to kind of defend criticism when you're not specific. But to me, that'd be the question: is what is everybody?
Right. What do you take in terms of the idea that everybody's returning for Marvel here?
I think it's very exciting. This is shaping up to be a very massive event, which I think that Marvel has been planning for a very long time. Obviously, with getting these characters to return. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Obviously, Ben Affleck Daredevil returning is a surprise. I feel like it's something that we had kind of heard whispers about previously. But I mean, I feel like once like Elektra showed up, this is kind of like in the Deadpool and Wolverine. I feel like this is kind of the kind of natural next step. Mm-hmm. We know the universe is out there. We know he exists in some way. So I think it's very exciting. I've also seen that Daredevil movie like a million times, that old Ben Affleck Daredevil. So I think it'll be a pleasure to see that again. It'll be very interesting. But yeah, this is, I feel like this is one of those projects that's kind of sneaking up on everyone. We haven't seen any kind of promotion really for Doomsday outside of just, outside of like these like cryptic kind of photos, like set photos and
the chair revealed the cast.
But yeah, and then the chair reveal of the cast, outside of that. And that just came and went, So they have so many other, as we pointed out even earlier on the show, they have so many other projects coming out. We just went to a Marvel panel, which we saw a bunch of new other projects coming out. So yeah, I was looking forward to, I guess, getting that. I guess once we hit the 1 year mark, we really hit that that kind of real, I guess, marketing push, advertising push for Doomsday, which should be very exciting.
Yeah, I think there was word that perhaps, well, not word, but questions about whether maybe they drop a Doomsday trailer with Avatar when that comes out in December, and that would make it 1 year until Doomsday. So that could be something that would be interesting. I mean, look, I think it'll make a good point that, like, at this point, we've kind of have seen almost everybody come back. Like, all the people we kind of been clamoring for have made an appearance. We saw Maguire, we saw Garfield, we saw some people, some people we didn't even clamor for. We didn't even clamor for Blade, I think, but Blade came back. We didn't clamor for Elektra, but Elektra came back. And it's important to note that Ben Affleck was on the set of Deadpool and Wolverine to support Jennifer Garner. He showed up there. I don't know if he brought his kids there, but they were there. He was there for sure. And there was questions about whether or not he was going to actually be in Deadpool and Wolverine, but it turned out he was not going to be in it. He just was there to support Jennifer Garner. So, yeah, I think the idea that bring everyone back, I think to Kendall's point, not to diss my time to shine low, we know that people are going to be brought back, right? So I think it gives you a really great latitude to say, well, everybody, and then we're gonna get Garfield. I think we're gonna get Garfield and Maguire. I think we're definitely gonna get Hugh Jackman. So like if somebody says, "Oh, what about Agents of Shield?" he say, "Well, listen, they brought back a bunch of other people, right? So like, I mean, they basically did bring everybody back, or they brought everybody back who's been in the movie before, so they brought everybody back. So I think that there's Agents of Shield. I think really are the last. They're the last, I think, guard, so to speak, that we haven't the last old guard that we haven't gotten returning. Like they went away, and there's been no coming back, and that's excluding obviously Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Assuming those guys eventually make their return,
and then again those X-Men, which again,
right? But
got
those
the
X-Men, I don't.
get those
Yeah,
actors.
right. And those X-Men will be tricky though, because I think they are part of the last trilogy, or not trilogy. They have more than 3 movies, I guess. But they're part of this most recent Fox X-Men. So I don't know if you're going to bring back people that just were playing the characters again.
Yeah, and it gets also tricky because again, they're supposed to be the same character, right? Like,
right.
They're not necessarily from another universe. So they're just supposed to be a younger version of them. So
yeah, that's true.
While from a multiverse standpoint, like from our perspective, it's like, from a fan perspective, yeah, like that's totally different characters, totally different actors, this and that. But in story, like, and of course, we don't even know if this is the same X-Men, obviously, but still, it would just be like, that would literally just be fan service, right? From a story perspective, it really wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, right. So maybe, and also, like, I guess other X-Men that haven't made it back officially, right? So, like, Jean Grey, by Famke Janssen, and Halle Berry playing Storm.
Assuming they're not in Doomsday.
Yeah,
right?
assuming they're not in Doomsday. Those would be the other characters that would be on the board. But the Secret Wars is going to be massive. I really hope that they find a way to really, I mean, the Secret Wars comic, the second version, the new version, that was, obviously, Dr. Doom creating Battle World. I mean, the marketing, everything behind that was great. I hope that, kind of like how I mentioned how much they dropped the ball with Secret Invasion. Like, I talked about how much Secret Invasion marketing really helped really bring me fully back into comics, and how well crafted that marketing was. They can do a lot of similar things with Battle World and with Secret Wars, and they clearly completely fumbled with Secret Invasion. Hopefully, with Secret War, they don't do
that. The other, everybody characters, if you're going really deep into the well, I mean, this one's also very unlikely from a story perspective, but you have Ed Norton, potentially as Hulk. You've got Eric Bana,
right?
as Hulk as well.
Well, Norton is technically supposed to be.
He's supposed to be rough.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Story perspective, that doesn't make a ton of sense, but
unless he's cloning himself.
That's a recast, actually. That's an actual. Literally, we just changed the actor.
Yeah. That's basically
Eric
a recast.
Bana
Yeah.
Eric Bana
now it doesn't. Now again, it doesn't mean that they can't bring him from another universe, right?
True.
It just looks like it.
Yeah, different universe.
That would be from a story perspective. It doesn't make any sense.
Right,
but
yeah,
it'd be like the X-Men, where it's
okay,
but
sure.
But the other one that is going deep is like, do they bring back like David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury? Right, like that would be really deep.
Shit, I mean, who's even asking for that?
No one.
Man, I just want to see the Agents of Shield. Man, bring them in live.
I know. Yeah, you give it David Hasselhoff.
You talk about David Hasselhoff. I'm like, where's Quake, man? What are we doing? I don't know.
How old is David Hasselhoff?
I don't know. I don't get it, but
He's got to be the 70s at this point.
He's very old.
He's 73.
He's very old.
I didn't want to say the thing of like, is he alive? Because that's but I kind of was like, we didn't lose David Hasselhoff. Nah, he's still kicking and breathing. Shout out to David Hasselhoff.
It's got to be around the same age as Samuel Jackson. I mean,
yeah,
be kind of ironic.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe younger even. 73. Yeah, Samuel Jackson is really a lot older than people realize. Staying on that note a little bit, one of the things we also got from Daniel RPK, shout out to him, was that after Secret Wars, there's plans to keep Hugh Jackman. I don't want to jump to Wolverine, but Hugh Jackman to be around for more projects after Secret Wars is over. Which I'll be honest, I don't love. I don't like it. I think Marvel is missing a major opportunity if they decide to not cast a new Wolverine. We talk about age. Hugh Jackman is well into his 60s, and I know he's playing Wolverine, which is an older character anyway. Like he's actually is supposed to look kind of old. Actually, Hugh Jackman's 57, so I age him a little bit. But we'd be talking about him playing Wolverine, well into his 60s if he's going to be cast as Wolverine beyond this, this upcoming iteration. I just think that that's a misstep, man. I think that we're entering a new era of Marvel. There will be a lot of new characters, new actors potentially, especially when it comes to the X-Men. Hugh Jackman's phenomenal. I love his portrayal of Wolverine. He gets the character for sure. I just think that Marvel had an opportunity potentially to create a new star, just like they were able to do along with Sony with Tom Holland, and in many ways, just like how DC and Warner was able to do with with Superman, with Corey Sweat. Now Corey Sweat's a megastar, and they have someone that can be a linchpin for many many years to come. We just don't know how long Hugh Jackman, as great a shape that he's in, and he is in ridiculous top world shape. We just don't know how much longer he can be this character and be in this physical role at this stage of his life. I think it's a mistake for them to not bring in another Wolverine. I just there's no that to me there's no justification for it, including the fact that he's amazing. We all understand he's amazing at it, but this is the time, if there's any time, to find someone new to play the role that could play the role for another 30 years, just like he's played the role for 20 plus years. Not doing that is a mistake in my opinion, Chef.
Yeah, I mean, this is terrible news. I mean, obviously, Kendall knows I've been, especially on the recast Wolverine. We need a Wolverine bandwagon for a very long time. And this is bad news, bad news, terrible news. And as you said, EJ, I agree. I love Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman has been a great Wolverine. He's been Wolverine literally since I've been like a child. To show you how long this man has been Wolverine. It's been a very long time that he's been playing Wolverine. But yeah, I am in agreement. We got to move forward. We got to move on. We need new X-Men, younger X-Men. We need and new Wolverines, especially. I mean, you even have Daphne Keane right here. She's right here. She was just Wolverine in the last Deadpool Wolverine movie as well. So to me, it doesn't make sense. It really does not make sense. Because you're going to hit a point where they're going to start talking about de-aging and putting the dots on them, when they're on set and all that stuff. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Why would they want to do that? Yes. Why would they want to have to do that? And this is a character that where you can, like you said, EJ, put a stamp on it and make it, this is the Marvel Studios Wolverine. And have it be more comics accurate. You can pick a smaller actor,
right?
That you can, so they can have it stand out and still be faithful to the comics and Stan Lee's vision. So I think it's lazy. It is, this to me screams lazy boardroom. People saying Hugh Jackman drives these numbers, and without thinking at all about the long-term ramifications of making the decision. That's just what it looks like.
Kendall, you're in agreement about this being a mistake for Marvel? They keep Jackman past Secret Wars.
I'm not as upset about this as you guys yet, because I don't hear that as Marvel is not going to recast Wolverine.
Okay.
I think that we're still going to get a new Wolverine. I'd be very surprised if we don't get a new Wolverine at all, ever, like in the next 5 years.
Okay.
And that they won't just double up. If they don't double up, I think that means that we don't have a Wolverine in our new X-Men reboot yet, and that we will eventually. Like, that's, to me, is worst case scenario, is that, like, Hugh Jackman. I mean, no. So let me frame. Worst case scenario is Hugh Jackman is in the X-Men reboot, right? That's worst case scenario to me. I don't think that's what's going to happen. Okay. I think that's a very low odds proposition. It just doesn't make sense, especially if they're going with a younger cast. I know Wolverine doesn't age, but like, he shouldn't be 60 plus years old. That just doesn't really make sense. The more realistic, but also not great scenario is like they take Wolverine off the board for a 5 year or so stretch, while they have Hugh Jackman doing other movies with Deadpool and other MCU adjacent stuff. That's maybe not canon or different, or I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. That I think is more realistic than him being in the X-Men movies. That's also not a great scenario to me, but it's not the end of the world. But I also think there's a chance, and I think it's why I'm not too panicked is that they'll just have a Wolverine in the new movies, and they'll also have Hugh Jackman doing other stuff. I don't think that's extremely likely. I think that's maybe less likely than them like just saying we're not going to have Wolverine in X-Men movies. But I don't think it's impossible because, again, when money comes into play, which money for superhero movies, if we just saw Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, which were good movies that didn't do well, money should be important when you're talking about crafting the ideas of these stories going forward in these movies. If money's anything to do with it, maybe Hugh Jackman will be in the movies, but I also think like Wolverine should probably be in the next X-Men movie. As much as maybe story-wise, it may make sense to not put Wolverine in it. I just think you make more money if Wolverine's a part of the X-Men than you do if he's not. So, my gut is that there's still a very good chance we get a new Wolverine. But again, if there's not a new Wolverine, if it's just like, yeah, Hugh Jackman is now, with the new X-Men, is it like the end of the world? No, because I don't know. Like from an age perspective, I think it's a mistake. I'm not as bothered. I'm not totally bothered because there's other like Carl Urban. I think would be an incredible Wolverine. He's also a little bit old. He's not as old as Hugh Jackman, but he's also in his 50s. Mm-hmm. So it's like if they then told me Carl Urban was the new Wolverine, like would I say it's a total mistake? Not necessarily, because I think he'd be an excellent Wolverine. I would just be like, hey, he's a little bit older for me, but maybe you're going with an X-Men Evolution vibe, right? Like X-Men Evolution, I love it. It's my favorite X-Men show, and like, Wolverine is very much older than the rest of the X-Men, which makes sense in that show because they're all younger. So if you go for something like that, then yeah, an older Wolverine than the rest of them is not that crazy. Then there's people that want like, a Daniel Radcliffe, or they want a Taron Egerton type to play Wolverine, somebody a little bit younger, somebody more in the age range of the rest of the actors, and that's totally fine too. But yeah, I don't think Hugh Jackman staying on is much of a surprise, given how well Deadpool and Wolverine did compared to against the movies that came out this year. I don't think I can't say it's dumb because again, it made so much money. And it made so much money because it had Hugh Jackman in it. Deadpool 3 doesn't do well without Hugh Jackman in it. Maybe that's a hot take, but like I think if Deadpool 3 is just a straight up Deadpool 3, and it has nothing to do with Wolverine, I just don't think it makes as much money as it did. And so that's now granted, does that movie do as good if it's not a Deadpool movie? Maybe not, right? Like if it's just another Logan. Another X-Men Origins Wolverine, maybe it also doesn't do as well. So I don't know if Wolverine's an automatic moneymaker, but yeah, I'm not totally sold on that. As like a terrible idea. I just don't want him to be the new Wolverine. It's like, we just brought back Hugh Jackman.
That's going to be the conversation. Is will he be the Wolverine that's connected to these other X-Men movies? I mean, the way Daniel Rickman describes it, with RBK, just more. More projects, that could mean anything, right? But if we're doing more projects even after Secret Wars is not until 2027, and X-Men is until 2028. So how many more years are we talking about of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine? And I am actually not someone who thinks Wolverine needs to be in an X-Men movie at all. I think that he's been in every X-Men movie, or almost every X-Men. That's not true. He wasn't in he wasn't in First Class, but I guess Apocalypse, but and Dark Phoenix, but
briefly in First Class, but
yeah, briefly in First Class, not really, right? But not Bill in First Class. He's been in almost every X-Men movie that we made, so I think that you could definitely, if you're doing,
he wasn't Apocalypse, just it wasn't Dark Phoenix.
Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix was not in at all, but you can, and to be honest, I mean, First Class did extremely well, and First Class is seen as one of, if not the best X-Men movie by many people's accounts. So I think that you can definitely do an X-Men movie without him. I don't like the idea of doing an X-Men movie without him, but then the universe that you're introducing mutants in, he is the Wolverine, because now the time it's going to take to get him to get involved with them is going to take forever. I don't have a problem if you say, hey, we're going to do Wolverine, but we're going to introduce him like he was in the comics. Like, he's going to be doing Department H stuff. He's going to be rocking with Alpha Flight. Like, there's going to be things that are going to lead him up to being a part of the X-Men. I think that actually really is cool. I think that can be really fun. I think you can tell them on a lot of different stories. You can do a Wolverine versus Hulk movie. Like, there's a million things you can do that can be great.
Right.
If you're doing Hugh Jackman is Wolverine, but we got to do 3 or 4 movies with him doing other stuff and then get him into X-Men. By that time, we're talking about he's 70. Like, he was 30. He was 32 when X-Men 1 came out. He was 30 when he was cast.
And it was awesome.
Right.
Worked.
He was cast. He was 30. He's 57 now. Next X-Men movie I can see was 2028. Even if he's in that movie, you're talking about him being, okay, now he's 60 years old. What is the realistic timeline of how many movies he's able to do in the 60s and 70s as Wolverine?
That's where...
He's not sitting in a wheelchair. Like, this is an extremely physical, active role. Like, and he's got to be in phenomenal shape in order to do it. And I know, again, he is in phenomenal shape, but what is it going to take for him to do that?
That's where common sense... That's where the common sense clashes a little bit. Because on the surface, like, there's no way he's going to be in the X-Men movies, right? 0% chance, just off of the surface of common sense. Like, there's, for all the reasons you said, he's just way too old. Doesn't make any sense. On the flip side, again, financially speaking, like, it makes all the sense in the world. Maybe not totally Hugh Jackman, but mostly Hugh Jackman. It makes all the sense in the world to be like, you know, again, Fantastic Four didn't do that great. Thunderbolts didn't do that great. Thunderbolts, less important, more so Fantastic Four being more important. Mm-hmm. Like, that didn't do as well as we would have hoped. Maybe we know it's not the X-Men, but we still would have thought it would have done a better number than it did when the movie was well received. Like, that, there's also a common sense argument to be that, like, you have to have Wolverine in these movies, and you have to have, like, even, like, you know, remember even Apocalypse, they threw him in the trailer, right? We were saying that at the time. Because it was like, there's no, like, Wolverine's not in this movie, not going to have a role. And then they did the thing where he shows up and he's got the helmet and the Weapon X thing. And they tease that because they know, like, Wolverine sells tickets, right? Yeah. Like, so it's going to be interesting, like, if you do an X-Men movie with no Wolverine, I mean, last time we saw that, Dark Phoenix. Now again, I'm not gonna say that this is gonna be that, right? There's no way. That was a dead franchise by then. They barely promoted it. It was an awful movie. There's no way it's gonna be that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it'll do well. But are you maximizing your potential from a financial standpoint? So it goes both ways. I still think the more logical thing, like, the more ridiculous idea is, like, throwing him in the movie, right? Having Hugh Jackman just because you want to make some money just doesn't make any sense.
Agreed. Totally. No. Yeah, totally agreed on that point. Let's get to the last thing here. What do you guys think of this Peacemaker finale? So Peacemaker ended last week. Ended in a way I don't think a lot of folks expected. So we get away from Earth X and they're back in the kind of current world, the current world of DC that we know. And a lot of this ended up being kind of character development of Peacemaker and his relationship with Harcourt, and kind of everyone else's kind of journey and kind of what Peacemaker means to them and why he's important, because he kind of wants to just get eagly and just go home and just kind of leave everybody, because he feels like after seeing his dad get killed by what's the name, Vigilante, and then seeing his brother almost be killed by his friend, that he realized that everything he touches dies, so he needs to be away from everybody.
Angel of Death.
Yes, he needs to be away from everybody, and the story centers around Harcourt and the crew realizing that Peacemaker is a big part of what makes them who they are, and B, that they could create their own thing away from Argus to help people if they are not going to be the ones that are going to be chosen. And that comes after really seeing Rick Flag, after learning about these different dimensions that exist, going into different dimensions, risking a lot of his people, his Argus, members' lives. People are literally dying in these missions to explore these other dimensions. It really kind of ended up being a story about that team coming together and creating their own thing. I did not love the finale. I thought it was fine. Like Peacemaker is always gonna be entertaining. Like James Gunn's a great story writer. He's a great director. So I found the story itself fine. It was funny in many aspects. It was emotional in many aspects. But I just thought in terms of wrapping up the season, I don't really feel like it did that in many ways. I don't think that really, I don't really know if Peacemaker really. It felt very much, and I saw someone say it. I think this was John Roca who said this. Shout out to him. Like it was really cookie cutter, where it would be like, Peacemaker doesn't get why he's important. Get the people to just tell him why he's important, and he just says, "Okay, I'm fine now," without actually dealing with the trauma that got him to being this point, which I thought was well developed from this season and last season. And it just seemed like, oh, if we all just sit down and have a conversation, we could solve everything. And that trope can feel a little cheap when you're talking about someone dealing with the level of depression that Peacemaker is dealing with. So I agree with that. I think that could have been done a lot better. I also feel like the Rick Flag element to the show, I'm not sure how much that worked. Which I feel I'm kind of tempted to kind of like hold off of that criticism, only because like when this show was made and we knew that Rick Flag Sr. existed, the first thing everyone kept saying is, well, what is Rick Flag going to do like about like Peacemaker, and knowing that Peacemaker killed his son. So this is something we wanted to see happen. We wanted to see that confrontation. I just think the way that after being introduced to Rick Flag in Creature Commandos and seeing who he was, it just feels like this is a very different person we're dealing with. I know he's dealing with someone totally different than anyone else, right? This is not Superman, who he has no opinion of. This is not, the people in the Creature Commandos. This is not the princess, right, from that show. Like this is someone he has a personal beef with. But still, like he goes from being someone who like is overall a decent guy, not perfect, but decent, so to speak, to someone who's really kind of like morally irreprehensible. And it didn't feel like the jump really made much sense. It made sense when it came to like him beating up Peacemaker in like the interrogation room and stuff. That made more sense, right? My people are being killed off, but I don't care because we're chasing Peacemaker. But actually, right now we're just chasing random, device dimensions and stuff. I don't know. That didn't equate to me. This is someone who showed that he had great care of the people he was around, and then he seemed to not care. His girlfriend, leaves the team and goes with the ops. He don't even seem to know. Like I don't know. Just there seemed to be stuff missing from this season finale. It was, I think, again, fine. I enjoyed it to the point of it just being entertaining, well written in terms of dialogue and stuff. Just that aspect of it. But I thought in terms of overall kind of capping up the season, I don't know if it worked. To me, it felt more like an epilogue than it did like a real season finale. To me, like episode 8 before that felt more like the finale to episode 9. How do you feel, Kendall?
Yeah, I mean, I told you when we saw it, it reminded me a lot of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man season 1. How that episode, the penultimate kind of felt like the finale, and the finale kind of took a weird shift. Shmari and CD, I won't spoil it, but it kind of took a weird kind of zigzag, and some of the characters felt a little different. The writing felt different. It just felt like they were just trying to set up season 2 somehow.
Right.
Like I think this show had a kind of similar ending, where, like you said, it almost felt like an epilogue. Like I think John Campia described it as felt like one long post-credit scene. And it was it wasn't like it was terrible, but where I think James Gunn got into a lot of trouble here, and it's happened a few times now with this guy. And it's, we talked about Bo DeMayo. It's sometimes a similar problem. Is Bo DeMayo, he's got to get off X. Like James Gunn's got to get off Threads, right? Just shut it down. I know we love the communication that he has with the fans, but when he keeps like trying to oversell his stuff, like I know that's your job, but at the same time, you're just setting yourself up for criticism.
Right.
And I'm not going to say setting yourself up to failure, but you're setting yourself up for criticism when certain promises aren't maybe as delivered as much as people expected. It's like the My Time to Shine thing we just said, right? Where we talked about, everybody's going to show up. Marvel didn't say that, right? Marvel didn't say, they don't say anything.
Right.
So when some people don't show up, we can't say, like, WandaVision, right? We got on Marvel for not saying these people aren't showing up, but they never said they were.
They were, right, yeah.
James Gunn basically saying, yeah, like, a bunch of stuff's going to happen in Peacemaker, and, you know, we were all like, oh, yeah, you know, Lex Luthor was awesome. Like, there's going to be more, right? Like, yeah, basically, there's going to be more.
And then it was like Lex Luthor's goons that were part of the team, just more of them joined besides the other guy with glasses.
Right. And so, yeah, you're going to have people spent, you know, weeks speculating, is Nightwing showing up? Is Blue Beetle showing up?
Yeah,
is
Blue Beetle got a
Booster
lot of
Gold?
Yeah.
I was pretty. I wouldn't say I was confident
Blue
Blue Beetle was showing up, but I thought there was a decent shot we were gonna get Blue Beetle, like, and a lot of that was just based off stuff James Gunn was saying. I didn't see him say this, but I heard from somebody that like apparently somebody asked him, like, is Blue Beetle showing up, and they were like, you know, he said something along the lines of, you know, if you want to see Blue Beetle, like, don't be surprised or something like that, or you'll be excited by what you see or something like that. And like that energy is the stuff that we got from The Flash, right? When we heard about The Flash being the greatest movie ever, when we knew it wasn't. We knew it wasn't before we saw the trailer. Really, this isn't going to be the greatest superhero movie, right? But he did a damn good job. He made us gave it a you know, a couple of weeks where we were like, maybe this thing is awesome. And then the reviews came out.
That was because James Gunn has earned a lot of goodwill.
100%.
Yeah,
right?
This is not Zack Snyder saying this, or or somebody that we don't respect. You know, this wasn't
some studio heads. Zaslav says that.
It wasn't Simon Kinberg, you know.
Right, exactly. You know, again, this is somebody with a track record of making really good stuff, and like always felt like, you know, kind of the, you know, everyman creator in many ways. Like, he felt like one of the fans, and so when he says, "Yeah, this is like, you know, one of the greatest superhero movies ever made,"
right?
He backed himself into a corner, and with this show, I'm not. As you guys know, I've not been like the most, like, I've not been the biggest James Gunn supporter on the show or on this podcast. This doesn't make me feel really any different about the future of the DCU. I know there's people checking out. There's people saying, "Oh, I'm concerned."
Sure.
I mean, I had my concerns before, but they're not. Again, it's not anything any elevated, because Peacemaker ultimately was really good. I would have liked the finale to be better, but this didn't ruin the season. There are some shows and finales, like Joker 2 ruined Joker 1. Like, I can't even watch Joker 1 anymore without feeling like, oh, this is a bad movie now. But with this, the finale didn't ruin it. It was fine. There was some weird stuff in it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, like the concert, right? Like the Foxy Shazam concert. Like that was like a full 4 or 5 minutes that they dedicated. It was awesome.
Yeah, there's some things that James
like
Gunn gets into this thing where there's some things he cares about more than anybody else watching his show does. And that felt like that was one of those things.
Yeah.
Right. And like with Guardians is in part so great, maybe because he has some interaction, right? If somebody would be like, we can't do that. Like, this is, you know, let's add a bit more story or some more character development as opposed to a 4-minute, 5-minute live concert where you're in the background. Right. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of collaboration. You know, you get other people involved, you bounce ideas off of other people. You know, checks and balances, all that good stuff. So, I'm in agreement with you guys. I thought the finale was good. I thought it was a good episode. But I would agree that it did not feel like a finale.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel, it didn't end on like this big like crescendo or anything like that. It was just kind of just landing. It literally just landed the plane. Like that was kind of it. And it kind of left off. Another thing that I personally wasn't the biggest fan of is it left off on like a pretty significant cliffhanger, I think. And we're hearing now that he's not doing a season 3, or that there's no plans to do a season 3.
Yeah, so
and it's like, so am I going to see this guy again? Am I going to see any of this again?
No, it's a good point.
Yeah. So like so that's not great. So that doesn't really that doesn't help me feel any better about the finale, knowing he wrote it just like, oh, and then this is gonna happen, and then like that's it. It's like, well, I feel like the salvation place is going to play a part in something.
Oh yeah.
You know, he said this is gonna have major ramifications, so I am again taking him on his word that it's going to have ramifications, that we will see this place again. But are we going to get anything with Chris Smith or any his group or anything like that? Who knows? So I don't love that. And I agree with you guys. A lot of it kind of feels similar to The Flash, where it's like, oh, this is a lot of the kind of showman thing where you just, this is the best movie ever, it's the best thing you'll ever see, and it's like, well, I mean, you don't have to say that. There's stuff where it's like you don't have to go to that extent. You can just say, guys, we worked really hard on this. We got something really cool to show you. We appreciate all your support, and so on and so forth. You don't got to do this. All you guys are going to be blown off your feet. You have no idea what's coming, type of stuff. Because once you do that and stuff doesn't happen, people are like, well, why am I listening to you?
Right.
Or should I go to the next thing? What are we doing? So yeah. So those basically my thoughts on it. I thought it was a good finale. I thought it landed the plane, but there were definitely some missteps, I believe, in terms of leaving major cliffhangers. Just
to clarify the Blue Beetle thing, because like, people are getting on for that. He's saying, I never said Blue Beetle was showing up, guys, but he was being interviewed. It was like a video interview, and they asked him, like the host was like, "Look, I'm hoping to see Blue Beetle showing up in upcoming seasons or Peacemaker or whatever." And James Gunn was like, "Look, well, I'm not going to say you're not in luck," and just kind of tease as if like there's something in the works. Which, look, we know Blue Beetle showing up at some point. Yeah, but that just kind of makes it seem like, I don't know. Just say, look, he's not in Peacemaker, but we're working on something. Just like he did with Static Shock, right? He was very clear with Static that. Yeah. We hope to do something, but nothing's in the works. Don't expect to see anything Static for a while. And we were fine. We're not going to criticize him for that. He claimed it was legal or whatever. Yeah. But it's like that. It's so easy. But when you do the stuff where you go, oh, maybe he's in it, maybe he's not, you're taking advantage of the fact that fans are being excited or speculating. Yeah. So hoping you get a few extra points on the Nielsen radar. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a double-edged thing of being so open. Is that you're not the guy that's just not saying anything. You're the guy that says a lot, and now we listen to you.
Kevin Feige doesn't do everything perfect, but Kevin Feige is way easier to read when it comes to that stuff. Like when he's being asked about something that's just no way that's happening, and he's like, it's like on video, it's like a red carpet or something. Yeah. Like I think he's going to be pretty open about like, I don't really expect that, or we're not really doing that right now, but. Like, he doesn't go out of his way to be like, oh, boy, well, then, you got to see the movie to find out. Like,
right. Yeah.
I don't know. It's bad. It's a bad idea. Just like we saw with the Winter Bomb with Venom, right? We don't know what Venom's inclusion is, but if there's nothing symbiote in Friendly Neighbor Spider-Man Season 2, I'm just like, what was that about?
They didn't do the carnival
accusations. These are not accusations.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. No question. I think Gunn is tough because he lived up to the hype with the earlier episodes with like Lex Luthor showing up and stuff. So like it's almost like he was riding that high.
The Justice Gang.
Yeah, Justice Gang. So he was riding the high of the other people showing up and feeling like, oh yeah, I got more to come, but he really did it. So in some ways, that's where I agree. Like the double-edged sword, of being the guy who wants to always interview and answer questions, but then once you get interviewed and answer questions, you got to say something, and sometimes you're pressed to say some things that maybe you shouldn't. So, no, but I mean, listen, like there are definitely ramifications for this season move for the DC world moving forward after the season. Checkmate is now established by Adebayo and Harcourt and the rest of the team. Peacemaker is now in Salvation. which is a reference to a run in the DC comics to where a world was built where they sent all of their villains. Like what happened? We just sent all the criminals and villains to just a world off of Earth and just away from everybody. So that's going to be a part of the DC world moving forward. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that's a good place to leave it here. So I want to thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of New Generation Hero Talk. Of course, you can get all of our shows on New Generation Podcast Network. You can find it on Apple Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Also, be sure to check us out on YouTube, New Generation Media. Follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, New Generation Pod, Instagram, New Generation Podcast. And follow us individually on social media as well. You can find Shamari on Instagram or now on just Snapchat, Instagram22. You can find Kendall on Twitter, NewGen10. You can find me on Twitter, EJ_Stewart, and on Instagram and TikTok, Action EJ. That'll do it for now. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. For Shamari, for Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.